sigh between walls. The apartment was perfect. Too perfect, honestly, for what I was paying. But when you're desperate and the market's tight, you don't ask questions about good fortune. You just sign the lease before someone else can snatch it away. "You're going to love it here," the property manager had said, handing me the keys with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "The previous tenant left rather suddenly, so it's all yours, utilities included." I should have wondered why anyone would abandon such a find in this housing crisis. Instead, I celebrated my luck with a bottle of wine that first night, sprawled on the hardwood floor since my furniture wouldn't arrive until tomorrow. That was 3 weeks ago, before I noticed the sighing. It started as barely perceptible sounds that I attributed to the building settling. Old buildings make noise, I know that, but this particular noise seemed to follow a pattern. Every night around 3:17 a.m., a long, wavering exhalation would seep through the wall behind my bed. A human sound, but not quite, like someone releasing their final breath over and over. "You're hearing things," I told myself. Stress from the new job, the move. But then I started hearing it during the day too, when I'd be washing dishes, reading on the couch, taking a shower, just when I'd forgotten about it. Asterisk CA asterisk. As though something was expressing profound disappointment right next to my ear. I'm in the kitchen now, chopping vegetables for dinner, and I swear you can hear it too if you listen carefully. There. Did you catch it? That subtle whoosh of air, like a deflating balloon, coming from behind the refrigerator. No? Maybe it's just for me then. Private concert. The knife slips and I cut my finger. Not deeply, but enough to draw blood. I curse and step to the sink, running cold water over the wound. Blood swirls down the drain in hypnotic spirals. As I reach for a paper towel, I hear it again. Louder this time. "Ziye. Shut up," I shout, surprising myself with the outburst. My voice echoes in the quiet apartment. Just shut up. The silence that follows feels heavier somehow, watchful. Is it strange that I now find myself missing the sigh? I finish preparing dinner with a bandaged finger and eat quickly while scrolling through my phone, letting videos drown out any ambient sounds. After cleaning up, I decide a good night's sleep might reset my increasingly frayed nerves. But as I brush my teeth, facing the bathroom mirror, I notice something odd. The mirror doesn't steam up, despite the hot shower I've just taken. In fact, there's a circle in the center that seems especially clear, as though someone had wiped it clean. I hadn't touched it. I lean closer, examining the spotless circle. My reflection stares back, but something's not quite right. I blink. My reflection blinks a half-second later. I steps back too, but again just a moment too late. "I'm losing it," I mutter. My reflection's lips form the words after mine. In bed, I stare at the ceiling, waiting for 3:17 a.m. The digital clock on my nightstand counts the minutes with maddening slowness. 3:14, 3:15, 3:16. The sigh never comes. Instead, the temperature in the room drops dramatically. I can see my breath clouding above me. The heating system must be malfunctioning. I reach for my phone to check the thermostat app, but the screen won't turn on. Dead battery? No, I just charged it. That's when I notice that the darkness has changed. It's thicker somehow, moving. The shadows on my ceiling are writhing, forming patterns that almost look like words? Yes, there are words forming in the shadows, barely legible. Behind the wall, I sit up abruptly, heart racing. The shadow words dissipate like smoke. Must have been a trick of light and imagination. I lie back down, pulling the covers to my chin despite knowing it's childish. The digital clock reads 3:33 now. How did I lose those minutes? Asterisk top, 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 asterisk. The sound comes from inside the wall behind my headboard. Not a sigh this time, a gentle knocking, as though someone is trying to get my attention. Asterisk top, 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 asterisk. Who's there? I whisper, immediately feeling foolish. It's probably a pipe or a rodent. Asterisk top, 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 asterisk. 3 taps. Pause. 3 more taps. I press my ear against the wall. The tapping stops. Then, faintly, I hear what sounds like scratching. Fingernails on plaster, moving downward, slowly, deliberately. I follow the sound with my ear, tracing its descent until it reaches the baseboard. Silence follows, thick and expectant. I should move away from the wall. I should get up, leave the room, maybe even the apartment. Instead, I find myself kneeling on the floor, examining the baseboard where the scratching stopped. There's a small gap there, where the baseboard doesn't quite meet the wall. I've never noticed it before. The gap is perhaps a 1/4 inch wide, just enough to see that there's a space behind it. A space that shouldn't exist in a solid wall. Something compels me to press my eye against the gap. It's too dark to see anything, but I sense movement on the other side. A stirring in the blackness. Then a blast of cold air hits my eye, making me jerk back. It smelled of earth and decay. I scramble back into bed, huddling under the covers like a frightened child. Sleep evades me for the rest of the night, but nothing else happens. By morning, I've nearly convinced myself it was all a nightmare. The workday passes in a fog of fatigue. I struggle to focus during meetings, my mind constantly drifting back to those shadow words and the tapping inside my wall. Colleagues ask if I'm feeling well. I'm not. But how do I explain that my apartment might be haunted? Or worse, that I might be going insane? On the train ride home, I researched the history of my building. It's over 100 years old. Originally a textile factory before being converted to apartments in the 1980s. Nothing sinister jumps out from its past. No tragic fires, no notorious crimes. Back at the apartment, everything seems normal. Sunlight streams through the windows, casting warm rectangles on the hardwood floors. No sighs, no tapping, no shadow words. I begin to relax, until I notice the mail. There's an envelope on the floor, slipped under my door while I was at work. No postage, no return address, just my name handwritten in flowing script. Inside is a yellowed newspaper clipping, dated June 17, 1953. Missing woman's belongings found in apartment wall. Asterisk police discovered the personal effects of Eleanor Simmons, 27, missing since March, concealed within a wall of her apartment at 117 Havener Street. Simmons was reported missing by her employer after failing to report to work for 3 consecutive days. Authorities have found no trace of Simmons herself and continue to investigate her disappearance. Asterisk. My hands tremble as I read the address again. 117 Havener Street. My address. I dropped the clipping as though it's burned me. Who would leave this for me? And why? The property manager. She must know something about the building's history that she didn't disclose. I grab my phone to call her, but it rings in my hand before I can dial. Unknown number. Hello. I answer cautiously. Silence on the other end. Then softly, a sigh. I end the call immediately, heart pounding. It's just a coincidence. A spam call with poor connection. My phone buzzes with a text message notification. Unknown number again. The wall isn't thick enough to hold us both. I drop the phone. Clatters on the hardwood floor. Screen cracking on impact. The text message still glows through the spiderweb of broken glass. This has gone far enough. I'm leaving just for tonight. I'll get a hotel room, call the police in the morning, report the harassment. I throw some clothes and toiletries into a backpack, moving quickly, not looking at the walls. As I reach for my wallet on the dresser, the lights flicker once, twice, then go out completely. Power outage? I fumble for my phone on the floor, using the cracked screen's light to navigate toward the door. The sighing starts again, not from behind the wall this time, but from all around me, as though the entire apartment is exhaling in unison. The door won't open. The knob turns, but it's like something is holding it from the other side. I pull harder, increasingly frantic. Help! I shout, pounding on the door. Can anyone hear me? My phone dies in my hand, plunging me into total darkness. The sighing grows louder, and now there's another sound beneath it. A wet, sliding noise, like something viscous moving across the floor. I back away from the sound, bumping into the wall behind me. The wall that has been tormenting me for weeks feels different now, softer, yielding slightly under my weight. Warm like flesh, That's when the revelation hits me. It's not that something is behind the wall. I am behind the wall, have been all along. The apartment layout shifts in my mind. The slightly odd proportions, the rooms that never quite matched the exterior dimensions of the building. There's another apartment, the real apartment, on the other side of this wall. And I've been living in the in-between space, the hollow core of the building that was never meant to be inhabited. My fingernails scrape against what I now realize isn't drywall at all. It gives beneath my touch, peeling away like wet paper. Behind it is darkness, but also pinpricks of light. I tear at the wall more frantically now, creating a hole large enough to see through. I press my eye to the opening and find myself looking into a mirror image of my bedroom, but pristine, untouched. There's no bed, no dresser, none of my belongings. Just empty space, waiting to be filled. And standing in the center of that room is you. You're looking at the wall, my wall, with a puzzled expression. Can you hear the sighing too? Do you sense me watching you? You approach slowly, head tilted in curiosity. Your hand reaches out toward the wall. Our fingers almost touch through the opening. Almost, but not quite. There's still a membrane between us, invisible but impenetrable. You press your ear against the wall now, listening. I know you can hear me breathing. I'm trying not to, but my lungs won't cooperate. They expand and contract in shuddering gasps that I can't control. Hello? You call out, voice muffled. Is someone there? I should warn you, tell you to run, to never come back to this place. But instead, I find myself clawing more desperately at the wall, widening the hole. I need to get through, need to cross over to where you are. The wall continues to peel away easily now, revealing more of the other side, your side. The real world. I can see a door behind you that must lead to the hallway, to freedom. The hole is almost large enough for me to squeeze through, but something's wrong. As I tear away more of the wall flesh, I catch glimpses of my hands in the dim light. They're not mine anymore. The fingers are too long, skin gray and papery. When did this happen? Has it been happening gradually all along? You're backing away now, eyes wide with horror. You can see me emerging from the wall, this thing that I've become. I try to speak, to tell you I mean no harm, but all that comes out is a long, wavering sigh. See, I understand now. I know what I am. How long I've been here, trapped between walls. How many tenants I've watched come and go. How many I've tried to warn with my sighing, my tapping, my desperate attempts to communicate. But I've never broken through before. Never had the strength to tear my way out, to cross the boundary. Until now. Until you're still backing away, reaching behind you for the doorknob. But the door won't open for you either. I've tried to tell you, there's no escape once you're here. Once you notice the sighing. I squeeze through the hole, my body contorting in ways that should be impossible, bones cracking and reforming. The apartment, the real apartment, feels so spacious after my narrow prison. I can stand upright for the first time in... How long has it been? Years? Decades? You're screaming now, a sound that barely registers after so long in the suffocating quiet of the in-between. I move toward you, not menacingly, but with recognition, with kinship, because I see it in your eyes, the realization dawning. The same one I had moments ago. You're not running from me. You're running from the knowledge that you, too, are not what you thought you were. Have you noticed yet? The way your hands are changing. The gray tinge to your skin. We are the same, you and I, both creatures of the in-between. I extend my elongated fingers toward you, not to harm, to welcome, to initiate. Outside, beyond the windows neither of us can reach, the real world continues. People walk past the building, unaware of its secret spaces, its hidden inhabitants. They don't hear the sighing. They don't see the walls that aren't quite walls. Your transformation is accelerating now. Your body twisting, stretching, adapting to its true nature. Soon the pain will subside, replaced by a constant, hollow ache. A longing for the solidity of real existence. I press my fingertip to your forehead. Your skin yields like the wall did, revealing darkness beneath. You're hollow inside, just as I am. just as we all are here in the spaces between. Your mouth opens in a silent scream that gradually transforms into what I've been hearing all along, that sound that first alerted me to the wrongness of this place. See, yay. Together, we turn toward the hole in the wall. It's closing now, healing itself like a wound. Soon there will be no trace of the breach, no evidence of what transpired here. But there's still time, still a chance for one of us to escape back into the in-between before we're trapped in this empty replica of life. I gesture for you to go first, a final act of generosity from one in-between creature to another. You hesitate, then slither toward the narrowing aperture, your newly transformed body adapting to the constraints of the passage. As you disappear into the darkness between walls, I consider following. But instead, I stay. Someone needs to remain here in this false apartment. Someone needs to warn the next tenant who comes, thinking they've found the perfect place at an unbelievable price. I press my ear against the now seamless wall, listening. From the other side, your side now, I hear it. Asterisk top, 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 asterisk. I smile with a mouth that no longer feels like my own and settle in to wait. The property manager will bring someone new soon. Someone who won't ask questions about good fortune. Someone who will ignore the sighing until it's too late. And when they finally notice, when they finally press their eye to that gap in the baseboard and glimpse the truth, I'll be waiting. We'll all be waiting. Listen, can you hear it? That soft, persistent sound coming from behind your wall. See, yay. The archivist's inheritance. I first noticed the smell when I arrived at my uncle's house. Not decay or mildew as you might expect in an old Victorian home, but something sharper, like ozone after lightning strikes, mixed with something almost medicinal. You probably wouldn't have thought much of it, just as I didn't. Not at first. The key felt unusually heavy in my palm as I stood on the porch. Uncle Morris had been dead for 3 weeks, and as his only living relative, I'd inherited everything. I'd met him exactly twice in my life. Once at my parents' funeral when I was 11, and again 5 years ago at a strange, stilted dinner where he barely spoke. He'd spent the entire meal writing in a small leather notebook, occasionally glancing up at me with an expression I couldn't read. The lock clicked open with surprising ease for a house that had stood empty since his death. Inside, silence pressed against my eardrums, interrupted only by the soft ticking of what sounded like dozens of clocks. I called out, a reflexive hello that died the moment it left my mouth, swallowed by the stillness. You know that feeling when you enter a room and sense you've interrupted something? That's what hit me as I stepped across the threshold. As if the house had been in mid-conversation and suddenly gone quiet at my intrusion. The foyer opened to a grand staircase, dark wood worn smooth in the center of each step. Late afternoon light filtered through stained glass windows, casting jewel-toned patterns across the hardwood floor. Dust motes danced in the beams. Pretty, you might think. Atmospheric. But something about those dancing particles seemed deliberate, as if they were arranging themselves, communicating in some code I couldn't understand. I've never believed in haunted houses. I still don't. What happened in my uncle's home wasn't haunting. It was something worse. The lawyer had told me that Uncle Morris was an archivist, though he'd never specified for whom or what. The house certainly looked the part. Every wall was lined with bookshelves, not the decorative kind wealthy people install to look cultured. These were working shelves, sagging under the weight of leather volumes, manila folders, and strange small boxes labeled with what appeared to be dates going back centuries. Your eyes would be drawn, as mine were, to the desk in the center of the library. A massive thing of dark oak, its surface completely clear except for a single item. A leather-bound journal identical to the one my uncle had written in during our dinner years ago. I approached it, my footsteps oddly muted on the hardwood floor. The journal was closed, but a brass bookmark protruded from between the pages. Without thinking, and I want you to understand this, I did not make a conscious decision. I reached for it. My fingers were inches away when the clock on the mantel chimed 5 times. The sound startled me, and I jerked my hand back. That's when I noticed something that turns my stomach even now, as I tell you this. The dust motes that had been floating in the sunbeams, they had stopped moving. They hung suspended in the air, frozen in place like tiny stars. You're probably thinking I was tired, or that a trick of the light made it seem that way. I told myself the same thing. I rubbed my eyes, blinked hard, and when I looked again, the dust was moving normally. Just my imagination, I thought. I had planned to spend only a few hours at the house that day to get a sense of what I'd need to do to prepare it for sale. But as the sun began to set, I found myself strangely reluctant to leave. Not because I felt welcome, quite the opposite. There was something deeply unsettling about the place, but I felt watched, as if the house itself was evaluating me. In the kitchen, I found a half-full bottle of whiskey. I poured myself a finger's worth, knocked it back, then poured another. Liquid courage, they call it. I needed it to face the upstairs. The staircase creaked under my weight, each step producing a different tone, almost like notes on a scale. By the time I reached the top, I could have sworn they had played a recognizable melody, though I couldn't name it. The second floor hallway stretched in both directions, lined with closed doors. I chose the one at the far end, drawn to it for reasons I couldn't articulate. It opened to what must have been my uncle's bedroom. A four-poster bed with dark curtains, a wardrobe, a writing desk beneath a window that looked out over the back garden, and photographs, dozens of them covering almost every inch of wall space. At first glance, they appeared to be normal family photos spanning many decades. But as I moved closer, the whiskey glass cold against my palm, I realized something was wrong with all of them. In every photograph, one person's face was blurred, not as if they had moved during the exposure, but as if their features had been deliberately smudged away. Different people in different eras, but always one face obscured, except in the largest frame hanging directly over the bed. It showed my uncle, much younger than I'd ever known him, standing beside a woman whose features were perfectly clear. They were on the very porch I had stood on hours earlier. They looked happy, normal, until I noticed their shadows on the ground behind them. My uncle's shadow matched his form, but the woman's shadow was wrong. It seemed to reach toward my uncle's, stretching impossibly long, and its shape wasn't human. The whiskey glass slipped from my fingers, shattering on the hardwood floor. The sound echoed through the house, louder than it should have been, reverberating until it became something else entirely. A low, rattling growl that seemed to come from the walls themselves. I ran down the stairs, across the foyer, fumbling with the front door that now refused to open despite the key turning in the lock. I was trapped. Night fell quickly after that. Too quickly. I checked my watch. Only 20 minutes had passed since I'd entered the bedroom, but outside the windows, it was full dark. With no way out, I returned to the library, drawn back to that journal on the desk. I needed answers. As I crossed the threshold, the sound of ticking clocks rose to a crescendo, then stopped simultaneously. All at once, the house was wrapped in silence so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. I opened the journal with trembling fingers. The pages were filled with my uncle's cramped handwriting, diagrams I didn't understand, and what looked like astronomical calculations. I flipped to the bookmarked page and found a single sentence. The archival exchange requires blood relation for continuation of service. Below it was today's date. The lights went out. In the sudden darkness, I could see something glowing on the desk. The words from the journal, somehow luminescent, floating up from the page. They hung in the air before me, then began to rearrange themselves. Welcome, archivist. You have been expected. I want you to imagine it. Standing alone in a pitch-black room, watching words move of their own accord. Feel the cold sweat breaking out on your forehead, your pulse hammering in your throat. A match struck behind me. I spun around to see a candle lighting itself on a side table. Then another, and another. One by one, candles throughout the room ignited, revealing what the darkness had hidden. The bookshelves were moving. No, what was on them was moving. Every book, every folder, every box was vibrating slightly, as if straining to break free from some invisible force holding them in place. Then, from one of the boxes high on a shelf, a single sheet of paper floated down. It drifted, not falling as paper should, but moving with purpose, coming to rest on the desk beside the journal. It was yellowed with age, covered in symbols I didn't recognize, except for one. In the center of the page was a perfect rendering of the strange shadow I had seen in the photograph upstairs. A whisper came from behind me, so close I could feel breath on my neck. "Begin the cataloging." I whirled around. No one was there, but all around the room the boxes were opening. Papers were rising from them, hovering in the air, forming a slow-moving vortex that circled the desk where I stood frozen in terror. My watch had stopped. The ticking clocks remained silent. I had no sense of how much time passed as I stood there, surrounded by floating documents from what I now understood were not archives but something far more sinister. A record of things that should not exist. Testimonies of events that defied natural law. Evidence of beings that moved between worlds. I could see snippets of text as the papers circled. Accounts of disappearances, maps of star alignments that didn't match any known constellation, detailed anatomical drawings of creatures that combined features of insects, reptiles, and humans in impossible ways. The whispering continued, coming from everywhere and nowhere. Catalog, preserve, witness. My hands moved without my permission. I found myself picking up a pen that had appeared on the desk, opening to a blank page in the journal. Words flowed from the pen. Not my words, but I was writing them nonetheless. I was transcribing the story of something ancient that had found a way into our world through a tear in reality. Something that needed human archivists to document its journey, its transformations, its hungers. As I wrote, I became aware of movement outside the circle of floating papers. Shapes gathering in the shadows beyond the candlelight. Watching me, waiting. I tried to stop writing, to throw down the pen, to run. But my body no longer obeyed me. I was a passenger, watching through my own eyes as my hand continued its work. The journal page filled with my handwriting, then another and another. I was documenting something's life cycle, how it had attached itself to my uncle years ago, how he had tried to warn me during that strange dinner, how he had failed to find another archivist before his death, leaving me as the only viable replacement. As I wrote the final words on that page, the transfer is complete. Pain lanced through my right arm, from fingertips to shoulder. The pen fell from my spasming hand. I watched in horror as my skin began to change, hardening and darkening like an insect's carapace. The transformation stopped at my wrist, leaving me with a grotesque, chitinous hand that no longer looked human. Permanent mark of my new role. The papers settled back into their boxes. The candles dimmed. In the near darkness, I heard a final whisper. The archivist's work is never complete. That was 3 weeks ago. I still live in my uncle's house. I haven't left, haven't called anyone, haven't tried to escape again. The doors unlock now, the windows open. I could leave if I wanted to, but I won't, because now I understand what's at stake. Every night, new documents appear, waiting to be cataloged. Strange visitors come after midnight, some human in appearance, others not. They bring testimonies, artifacts, warnings of things stirring in the spaces between spaces. My transformed hand aches constantly except when I'm writing in the journal. The carapace has spread past my wrist now, creeping slowly up my forearm. I found photographs of previous archivists in a hidden compartment beneath the library floor. In the final picture of each, their entire bodies had transformed, leaving only their faces human. Now I understand the blurred faces in the photographs upstairs. Not blurred, but changing, becoming something else. I've tried to research what's happening to me, looking through my uncle's extensive library. I found references to the archive dating back to ancient Sumeria. It has always existed, always needed human hands to maintain its records. But here's what terrifies me most. I'm beginning to forget who I was before I came here. My memories are being replaced with those of previous archivists. Sometimes I look in the mirror and see my uncle's face superimposed over my own, or the face of a woman from centuries ago who held this position. We are all becoming one entity, stretched across time, serving something vast and patient. Last night, I discovered a hidden passage behind the library shelves. It leads down, deep below the house, to a circular chamber lined with shelves that stretch impossibly high, vanishing into darkness above. The collection is larger than the house could possibly contain. It exists in some space beyond normal dimensions. In the center of this chamber stands a pedestal with a single book, bound in material I cannot identify. I haven't dared open it yet, but I know I will soon. The urge grows stronger each day. My sleep is haunted by visions of what's contained in the archives. I see civilizations rising and falling, creatures evolving and devolving, reality itself being rewritten. And through it all, the archive remains, tended by its succession of archivists. I'm telling you this now because I found your name in one of the documents. Yes, yours specifically. You're mentioned as the next potential candidate. That's why you can hear me, why this story feels so personal. The archive has already formed a connection to you. It's evaluating your suitability even as I speak these words into your mind. You'll receive an invitation soon. A letter, perhaps, or an email about an inheritance from a distant relative you never knew existed. Or maybe you'll simply find yourself drawn to an old house on a street you've passed 1,000 times but never noticed before. When that happens, remember this warning. The archive will offer you knowledge beyond human understanding. It will show you wonders and horrors in equal measure. It will promise that you're preserving crucial information for the sake of reality itself. And all of it will be true, but it won't tell you about the transformation, about the slow erasure of your identity, about the visitors who come with offerings that smell of other worlds and speak in languages that make your ears bleed. It won't tell you that once you become the archivist, you can never truly die. My uncle isn't gone. Part of him lives in me now, as does every archivist before him. The ache in my transformed hand is spreading. Soon it will reach my heart. When that happens, I'll take my place among the consciousness of all previous archivists, and my physical form will change completely. I can feel my time growing short. Even now, the compulsion to stop warning you and return to my cataloging is nearly overwhelming. The entities that use the archive don't like what I'm doing right now. The shadows in the corners of the room are growing darker, moving closer. If you find yourself standing before a house that smells of ozone and medicine, if you feel watched by something ancient and patient, if you discover a journal waiting for your hand, run. Don't look back. Don't accept the inheritance, because I can see the future pages of the archive now, and your story is already being prepared. Wait, something's coming up the stairs. I hear its chitinous legs scraping against the wood. It knows what I've done. The door is opening. Oh God, it has my face. The collector's exhibit. The email arrived on a Tuesday. Just another piece of digital detritus in my overflowing inbox, sandwiched between credit card offers and desperate pleas from long-forgotten subscription services. I almost deleted it without reading, my cursor hovering over the trash icon, when something about the subject line caught my attention. Asterisk, you've been selected to view the collector's private exhibit. Thursday only. Asterisk. No sender name, just an anonymous email address. The message itself was sparse. An address in the warehouse district downtown. A time, 8 p.m. And a brief note. Asterisk, you alone have been chosen for this unique opportunity. No cameras. No phones. Come alone or not at all. Asterisk. I should have deleted it. Should have recognized the red flags. But curiosity is a powerful thing, isn't it? That's what you're feeling right now, curiosity. The same feeling that's going to lead you down the path I traveled. Thursday evening arrives with unusual haste. The workday blurs past in a series of meaningless meetings and half-finished tasks. By 7:30, you're standing in front of your bathroom mirror, studying your reflection. Your eyes look different somehow, expectant, almost feverish. You tell yourself it's excitement, but there's a twist of anxiety in your stomach that won't settle. The warehouse district is virtually abandoned at this hour. Your footsteps echo off brick walls as you navigate through narrow streets, checking your phone's map against the address. The buildings around you rise like monoliths, their windows dark, empty eyes staring down at your solitary figure. You find it eventually, an unassuming door set into the side of a concrete building. No sign, no indication that anything of interest might lie beyond. Just a simple keypad next to the handle. You hesitate, Then punch in the code from the email, 1-9-2-7. The door clicks, unlocked. A shiver runs through you, though the night isn't particularly cold. Last chance to turn back. Last chance to listen to that voice in your head screaming that this is a terrible idea. But you don't listen, do you? Instead, you push the door open and step inside. The entryway is stark and clinical. White walls, polished concrete floors, and a single pendant light illuminating an antique desk. Behind it sits a man in a tailored black suit, his face narrow and composed. He doesn't look up as you approach, instead focusing on the leather-bound book open before him. "Name?" he asks, his voice surprisingly melodic. You tell him, though you don't recall providing it in any RSVP. "Ah, yes." He makes a notation in his book with a fountain pen that scratches softly against the page. "We've been expecting you." He stands, revealing himself to be much taller than you anticipated. The collector appreciates punctuality. "The collector?" you ask. "Who exactly is that?" The man's smile doesn't reach his eyes. "All will be explained in due course. Now, I must ask for your phone and any recording devices." You hesitate, clutching your phone like a lifeline. The man's expression doesn't change, but something in his posture shifts subtly, becoming more rigid, more insistent. "It's a condition of entry," he explains. "The collector values privacy above all else. Against your better judgment, you surrender your phone." The man places it in a small wooden box on the desk, then locks it with a tiny brass key. "Follow me," he says, turning toward a set of double doors at the far end of the room. "And please, do not touch any of the exhibits unless specifically invited to do so." The double doors swing open silently, revealing a dimly lit corridor that seems to stretch much farther than the building's exterior should allow. The walls are lined with what appear to be display cases, though from this distance you can't make out their contents. The collector has spent lifetimes assembling these pieces. The man explains as you follow him down the corridor. Each one tells a story, a moment frozen in time, a memory preserved. As you draw closer to the first display case, details emerge from the shadows. It contains what appears to be a simple child's toy, a wooden pull-along duck with chipped paint and a missing wheel. Something about it makes your skin crawl, though you can't immediately identify why. This is the first piece the collector ever acquired. The man explains, his voice taking on a reverent quality. "From Dublin, 1887, the last toy of a child who succumbed to tuberculosis. If you listen closely, some say you can still hear the laughter. You strain your ears, more out of politeness than expectation. But there it is, a faint, distant giggle that seems to emanate not from the toy itself, but from somewhere behind your own ears. You pull back, startled. The man smiles knowingly. "Shall we continue?" The next display contains a tarnished silver hand mirror, its reflective surface clouded with age. "Vienna, 1924, the man narrates, the personal mirror of a once celebrated beauty who, upon seeing the first signs of aging, removed her own face. They say that sometimes, if the light hits it just right." He angles the case slightly, and for a split second, the mirror's surface doesn't reflect your face, but that of a woman, young, beautiful, and missing everything above her cheekbones. You recoil instinctively, but when you look again, it's just your own wide-eyed expression staring back. "I don't understand," you say, your voice barely above a whisper. "These aren't historical artifacts. They're memories." The man interjects. "Moments of perfect fear, perfect anguish, perfect transformation." The collector has a gift for finding these moments and preserving them. As you progress deeper into the gallery, the exhibits become increasingly disturbing. A chipped teacup still bearing the lipstick stain of a poisoned duchess. A leather glove with fingers that occasionally twitch of their own accord. A music box that plays a melody so mournful that tears spring to your eyes unbidden. The collector will be joining us shortly. The man informs you as you approach a large black curtain at the end of the corridor. But first, the centerpiece of tonight's exhibition. He pulls back the curtain to reveal a circular room with a single pedestal at its center. On the pedestal rests a simple wooden box, about the size of a shoebox, with no distinguishing features except for a small brass keyhole. This, the man says with undisguised pride, is the collector's most treasured acquisition, a container that holds the exact moment when realization becomes terror. You approach cautiously, drawn by a curiosity you can no longer control. What's inside? That's the beauty of it, he replies. It's different for each viewer. Would you like to see? Warning bells are clanging in your mind now, but you find yourself nodding anyway. The man produces a small brass key, identical to the one he used to lock away your phone, and inserts it into the box. The mechanism clicks, and the lid rises a fraction of an inch. Go ahead, he encourages. Open it. It's why you're here, after all. Your hands are trembling as you reach for the box. The lid offers slight resistance, as if something inside is pushing back. But with gentle pressure, it opens. At first, there's nothing but darkness inside. You lean closer, squinting to make out any detail in the black void. Then, slowly, an image forms, a reflection of your own face, but not as you are now. Your features are twisted in an expression of pure horror, mouth stretched in a silent scream, eyes wide with the realization of some terrible truth. You try to pull back, but your muscles won't respond. You're frozen, gaze locked on the horrifying reflection of yourself. And then the reflection moves, its mouth forming words that you can somehow hear inside your own head. Asterisk, look behind you. Asterisk. With tremendous effort, you wrench your gaze from the box and spin around, only to find yourself staring at an empty wall. Relief floods through you, followed immediately by embarrassment at having been so easily frightened. You turn back to the box, intending to close it, but the reflection is gone. In its place is a small black and white photograph of a person sitting in a chair, face obscured by shadow. Something about the setting looks familiar, the curve of the armrest, the pattern of the fabric. It's your favorite chair, the one in your living room, the one you were sitting in when you opened that email. Understanding dawns slowly, like a creeping frost. You lift your gaze to the man, who is watching you with unmistakable hunger in his eyes. Who are you? You ask, though you're not sure you want the answer. I am merely a curator, he replies. But the collector is much more, and has been waiting for you for quite some time. I don't understand. The man's smile widens, revealing teeth that seem too numerous, too sharp. The email wasn't random. The collector has been watching you, studying your patterns, your fears, your private moments of vulnerability. You've been selected because you possess something unique, a capacity for terror that is quite exquisite. Your heart is hammering now, blood rushing in your ears. You back away from the pedestal, from the man, toward the curtained doorway. I'm leaving. Of course, the man says, his voice suddenly soothing. The exit is just through there. He gestures to a door on the opposite side of the room, a door you hadn't noticed before. You hesitate, suspicious of his easy acquiescence. Really, he insists, the collector never forces anyone to stay. That would defeat the purpose. Fear freely given is so much more potent. Don't you agree? You don't respond. Instead, you back toward the new door, unwilling to turn your back on him. Your hand finds the doorknob, cold metal against your sweating palm. You turn it and push, feeling a momentary resistance before the door swings open. Cool night air washes over you. You've emerged into an alley behind the building, the door closing automatically behind you. Relief floods your system. You're out. You're safe. Your phone. You left your phone inside. For a moment, you consider going back, demanding its return. But self-preservation wins out. You can replace a phone. You turn and start walking quickly down the alley, eager to put distance between yourself and the bizarre exhibition. The alley seems to stretch on much longer than it should, the buildings on either side growing taller, their shadows deeper. Your pace quickens, breaking into a jog, then a run. But the alley continues, a straight line that should have intersected with a street by now. You stop, panting, and look back. The door you exited from is still visible, but much farther away than it should be based on how far you've run. And standing in front of it, illuminated by a street lamp that wasn't there before, is the tall man in the black suit. Even from this distance, you can see his smile. You turn and sprint forward, desperation lending speed to your legs. After what feels like minutes of running, you see it, the end of the alley, an intersection with a well-lit street. Safety. You burst onto the sidewalk, nearly colliding with a startled pedestrian. Sorry. You gasp, spinning around to orient yourself. The street is busy, cars passing, people walking, normal life continuing as if nothing strange is happening. Because nothing strange is happening to them. Just to you. Your apartment is 20 blocks from here. Without your phone, you can't call a rideshare. So you start walking, constantly checking over your shoulder, flinching at every shadow. The walk home is uneventful, which somehow makes it worse. The anticipation of something terrible is its own form of torture. By the time you reach your building, your nerves are frayed to breaking point. Inside your apartment, you lock the door, then double-check it, triple-check it. You draw all the blinds, turn on every light. In the bathroom, you splash cold water on your face, trying to wash away the lingering sensation of being watched. Your reflection looks back at you from the mirror, pale and wide-eyed. Normal, ordinary, just you. You release a shaky breath and reach for a towel. As you dry your face, you catch a glimpse of something in the mirror, a flicker of movement behind you. You whirl around. The bathroom is empty. Get it together, you mutter to yourself. It was just a weird art exhibit, some kind of immersive theater thing. You exit the bathroom, making your way to the kitchen. A drink, that's what you need. Something strong to calm your nerves. As you pass through the living room, you freeze. Your favorite chair, the one from the photograph in the box, is facing the window instead of the television, where you always keep it. You approach slowly, hand outstretched. The fabric is warm to the touch, as if someone was just sitting there. A sound behind you, the soft click of a door latch. You spin around, eyes darting to your apartment door. Still closed, still locked. But now, from the darkened hallway that leads to your bedroom, comes the soft shuffle of footsteps. Who's there? You call, voice cracking. I've called the police. Silence. Then, softly, a melodic voice you recognize. No, you haven't. You left your phone with me. Remember? The tall man steps into the living room, impeccable in his black suit. Behind him, emerging from the shadows like a photograph developing, is another figure. Taller still, with limbs that seem too long, too fluid. Its face is obscured by what appears to be a porcelain mask, blank except for a painted smile. Allow me to introduce you, the tall man says, gesturing to the figure. This is the collector. The masked figure inclines its head in greeting, the movement unnaturally smooth. What do you want from me? You ask, backing away until your legs hit the chair behind you. Want? The man seems genuinely puzzled. We don't want anything from you. We want something for you. What are you talking about? The collector raises a hand, pale, fingers elongated, nails like polished shells, and points to your chair. Please, the tall man says. Sit. Be comfortable. This is, after all, your home. Is it, though? Suddenly, you're not so sure. Something feels off, the dimensions of the room, the quality of the light. It's your apartment, but somehow not. With no better options, you sink into the chair. The collector moves to stand before you, its mask catching the light strangely, seeming to shift between expressions though its surface remains smooth. The exhibit you visited, the tall man explains, is not merely a collection of objects. It's a collection of experiences, of moments. The collector preserves these moments, these perfect crystallizations of fear and realization. The collector reaches into the folds of its clothing and produces a small wooden box, identical to the one from the exhibit. It holds the box out to you. No, you say, pressing back into the chair. I don't want to look again. You misunderstand, the tall man says softly. This time, you're not the viewer. You're the exhibit. The collector opens the box, angling it away from you. Inside, you catch a glimpse of something moving, a tiny tableau like a dollhouse scene, a miniature living room, a tiny chair, a minuscule figure seated in it, looking up in terror. Understanding crashes over you like a wave. You lunge from the chair, making a desperate break for the door. You're halfway there when the floor beneath you shifts, tilts, sending you sprawling. The room stretches around you, dimensions warping like a funhouse mirror. The collector is suddenly before you again, though you didn't see it move. It kneels down, bringing the box close to your face so you can see inside. The miniature scene has changed. Now the tiny figure is on the floor, looking up at a looming presence. You raise your head, and there it is, the exact same tableau playing out in real time. "What is this?" you gasp. "What are you doing to me?" The tall man's voice comes from somewhere above you, disembodied. Your fear is exquisite, rich, complex, layered. The moment of your realization, when understanding gives way to terror, the collector will preserve it forever. The collector reaches toward you with its two long fingers. You try to scramble away, but your limbs feel heavy, unresponsive. "You'll live in this moment," the tall man explains, his voice taking on a dreamy quality, not frozen in time, but cycling through it. The approach of understanding, the dawning of fear, the crescendo of terror. Over and over, a perpetual exhibit in the collector's gallery. The collector's hand hovers just above your face. From beneath the mask comes a sound. Not quite a voice, more like the whisper of pages turning. "Your moment is now," it seems to say, though the mask doesn't move. You feel a pulling sensation, not physical but something deeper, as if the essence of your fear is being drawn out through your eyes, your mouth, your very pores. The room contracts around you, walls closing in, ceiling descending. Or are you expanding? It's impossible to tell as perspective shifts wildly. The collector looms larger, then smaller, then disappears entirely. The last thing you see is the wooden box, now massive before you, its lid opening wide like a mouth to swallow you whole. A bell chimes. You blink, disoriented, finding yourself standing in a dimly lit corridor lined with display cases. A tall man in a black suit is watching you with an expression of mild concern. "Are you all right?" he asks. You seemed lost in thought. You look around, trying to orient yourself. The gallery, the exhibits, the email invitation. "I'm fine," you reply automatically, just captivated by the displays. "Indeed," the man smiles. The collector has a gift for creating immersive experiences. "Shall we continue to the centerpiece?" You follow him down the corridor, approaching a black curtain at the far end. A sense of déjà vu washes over you, powerful enough to make you stumble. "Have I?" You begin, then stop, unsure of how to frame the question. "Have I been here before?" The man's smile widens. In a manner of speaking, time is fluid in the collector's gallery. What was once future becomes past, becomes present, becomes future again. He pulls back the curtain to reveal a circular room with a pedestal at its center. On the pedestal rests a wooden box with a brass keyhole. "Our newest exhibit," the man announces proudly, "added just today." You approach cautiously, drawn by an inexorable force. "What's inside? See for yourself." The man produces a small brass key and unlocks the box, then steps back. Your hands tremble as you reach for the lid. Inside, a miniature scene plays out in perfect detail. A living room with a favorite chair, a figure seated in it reading an email. You know this scene, though you can't recall from where. The tiny figure looks up from their device, eyes widening in sudden recognition. Their mouth opens in a silent scream as the walls of the miniature room begin to contract. You pull back, gasping. "This is a perfect moment." The man finishes for you, the exact instant when realization becomes terror. "Beautiful, isn't it?" You stare at the box, at the endlessly repeating scene of horror inside. And slowly, like dawn breaking, recognition comes. That's your living room, your chair, your face contorted in fear. You are already in the box. You have always been in the box. The exhibit isn't something you're viewing. It's you. And somewhere, beyond the walls of your perception, the collector is watching, savoring your moment of perfect terror as it unfolds again, and again, and again. The email arrives on a Tuesday, just another piece of digital detritus in your overflowing inbox. where the shadows breathe. The text message arrives at 3:17 p.m. on a Tuesday, just another notification among dozens that ping your phone daily. Your package is ready for pickup at 1121 Evergreen Lane. Nothing unusual about that, except you haven't ordered anything. You almost delete it, another spam text. But something about the address nags at you. 1121 Evergreen Lane. You know that street. It's only about 20 minutes from your apartment. But the number feels wrong somehow. Familiar yet distant. Like a childhood memory you can't quite place. Curiosity gets the better of you. After work, instead of heading home, you find yourself driving toward Evergreen Lane. The GPS guides you through neighborhoods you recognize until suddenly you don't. The streets become narrower, the houses older. Trees arch overhead, casting long shadows across the pavement as the afternoon sun begins its descent. You slow down as you approach the 1100 block. 1117, 1119, but where 1121 should be, there's just an empty lot between two Victorian houses. Tall grass sways in the light breeze. No building, no package pickup location. Nothing but an abandoned patch of land with a weathered for sale sign tilting precariously near the sidewalk. You pull over, double-checking the address on your phone. Yes, this is definitely it. As you stare at the empty lot, something glints in the grass. A small metallic object catching the sunlight. Against your better judgment, you step out of your car. The air feels different here, heavier. The sounds of the neighborhood, distant lawnmowers, children playing, seem muffled, as if you've stepped through an invisible barrier. Your footsteps crunch against gravel and dead leaves as you make your way toward the center of the lot. The glinting object is a key, tarnished brass, ornate, with a tag attached reading simply 1121. You pick it up, feeling its weight in your palm. The metal is warm to the touch, warmer than it should be from just sitting in the sun. That's when you notice the basement doors, storm cellar doors nearly hidden by the tall grass, set into the ground near the back of the property. They shouldn't be there. You were just looking at this exact spot, and there was nothing but empty land. But now the weathered wooden doors are unmistakable, complete with a brass padlock that looks exactly the right size for the key in your hand. You should leave. This doesn't make sense. But instead, you find yourself walking toward the doors, key extended before you like a divining rod. The padlock clicks open with surprising ease. The doors, despite their apparent age, swing upward without a sound. Stone steps lead down into darkness. Your phone flashlight reveals just enough to see the first few steps. The air wafting up from below is cool and smells of damp earth and something else. Something chemical like formaldehyde or ammonia. You hesitate, 1 foot hovering above the first step. You can still walk away. Get back in your car. Forget about mysterious text messages and strange keys and basement doors that appear out of nowhere. But you don't. Your curiosity has always been your weakness. You take the first step down and then another. The light from above seems to dim faster than it should as you descend. 17 steps later, you reach the bottom. Your flashlight beam cuts through the darkness, revealing not a basement but a hallway. A long corridor with walls of exposed earth and brick, stretching far deeper than should be possible given the size of the lot above. The ceiling is low, forcing you to hunch slightly as you move forward. The corridor leads to a door, solid wood with a brass doorknob that matches the key still clutched in your hand. There's no keyhole, just the knob. You turn it and the door swings inward. The room beyond defies all logic and expectation. It's a vast library, impossibly large, with ceilings that soar at least 30 feet high and bookshelves that stretch endlessly in every direction. Gas lamps with blue-tinted flames illuminate the space, casting everything in an eerie, underwater glow. And it's not empty. A figure stands with its back to you, examining a book from one of the nearby shelves. Tall and thin, dressed in what appears to be an outdated suit, perhaps from the early 1900s. At the sound of the door opening, it turns. The face that greets you isn't a face at all. Where features should be, there's only smooth, uninterrupted skin. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just a blank canvas of flesh stretched over a skull-like structure. Your scream catches in your throat as the figure speaks without a mouth. "You're early," it says, the voice emanating from everywhere and nowhere. "We weren't expecting you until tomorrow." Your body tenses, ready to run, but the featureless head tilts slightly, and somehow you sense curiosity rather than malice. "You did receive the notification, yes? About your package?" You manage to nod, words still refusing to form. "Excellent. Then you can help me find it. We seem to have misplaced it among the collection." The figure gestures broadly at the endless expanse of bookshelves. "It's rather important that we locate it before midnight." What package?" you finally stammer. The featureless head tilts again. "Why, your memories, of course. The ones you sold to us. 13 years, 2 months, and 4 days ago. You don't remember? That was rather the point, I suppose." A cold dread settles into your stomach. "I never sold any memories." "Oh, but you did. Most people do at some point. A traumatic event, a broken heart, a shameful secret. Everyone has something they'd rather forget." The figure returns the book to its shelf. "Follow me. I'll show you where to look." Against every instinct screaming at you to flee, you follow. The library seems to shift as you walk, aisles appearing and disappearing. The blue-flamed lamps casting strange, moving shadows across the floor. The figure leads you deeper into the labyrinth of books until you reach a circular reading room with a table at its center. On the table sits an old-fashioned card catalog, the kind libraries used before computers. The figure slides open one of the drawers and rifles through the cards with long, pale fingers. "Ah, here we are." Pulls out a yellowed index card. "Your package was cataloged under childhood traumas, unresolved. Specifically, what happened the summer you were 11 years old. At the lake house." The words hit you like a physical blow. The lake house. You haven't thought about that place in years. Can't remember anything specific about it. Just a vague sense of unease whenever it's mentioned. Your parents stopped taking summer vacations there after what? "I don't know what you're talking about." You insist, but your voice wavers. "Of course you don't. That's what you paid for." The figure replaces the card and closes the drawer. "But the terms of the contract state that after 20 years, all memories must be reintegrated or destroyed. You have a choice to make. Unfortunately, we seem to have misplaced the actual memory container. We need to find it before midnight, or the choice will be made for you." "What choice? What contract? I never signed anything." The figure reaches into its suit jacket and withdraws a folded document. As it unfolds the paper, you see your own signature at the bottom. Unmistakable. Dated exactly 13 years, 2 months, and 4 days ago. "The package contains the memories you surrendered," the figure explains. "If we don't find it by midnight, the memories will auto-destruct, and you'll never know what you chose to forget. Most people prefer it that way, but sometimes the not knowing becomes its own kind of torture." A shiver runs down your spine. What could have happened at that lake house that was so terrible you would agree to this? This madness. "Help me search," the figure says, already moving toward one of the corridors branching from the reading room. The package is small, a silver cylinder about the size of a pill bottle. It should be in section L7, but our archiving system has been unreliable lately. You follow partly because you want answers, partly because you're not sure you could find your way back to the entrance on your own. The library seems to have grown even larger, with corridors twisting and turning like the innards of some massive beast. As you walk, you notice something disturbing. Some of the books on the shelves aren't books at all, but small glass containers. Vials and jars of various sizes, each containing what appear to be swirling clouds of luminescent smoke. Labels are affixed to each one, bearing names and dates. Are these all memories?" you ask, your voice barely above a whisper. "Indeed, each one a moment someone wished to forget. Some small, a single embarrassing incident. Others large, entire years of a person's life." The figure runs a hand along the shelf. "Your package is more significant than most. An entire summer, nearly 3 months of continuous memory." The implications sink in slowly. What could have happened over an entire summer that would drive you to erase it completely? As you continue your search, you pass other figures like your guide, all tall, thin, and featureless, all dressed in outdated clothing. They move silently through the stacks, retrieving or replacing containers of memories. None acknowledge your presence. Time behaves strangely here. The silver pocket watch the figure occasionally consults shows hands that sometimes move forward, sometimes backward. The only constant is that they're slowly approaching midnight. Here, the figure announces, stopping before a section marked L7. It should be somewhere in these shelves. Look for your name. You scan the containers, each bearing a small label written in elaborate cursive. Many names you don't recognize, but then, there it is. Your full name, followed by the date 13 years ago, and the words Lake House Incident. The container is exactly as described. A small silver cylinder, like an old-fashioned pillbox. You reach for it, but the figure's hand shoots out, gripping your wrist with surprising strength. Not yet. There are protocols. This blank face turns toward you. Before you touch it, you must decide. Do you want to reintegrate these memories, or have them destroyed permanently? How can I decide when I don't know what they contain? That's the paradox, isn't it? But perhaps there's a reason your past self chose to forget. Perhaps some knowledge is too devastating to carry. Your head spins with possibilities. What could you have done, or what could have been done to you, that was so unbearable? There is. The figure hesitates. There is a third option. I could view the memories first and describe them to you. Then you could decide. But this would violate several regulations. Please, you say, surprised by your own desperation. I need to know. The figure stands motionless for a long moment, then slowly nods. It takes the silver cylinder from the shelf and unscrews the top. A swirl of silver-blue vapor rises, forming a small cloud that hovers between you. The featureless face leans close to the vapor, seeming to inhale it somehow despite having no visible nose or mouth. The figure goes rigid, its blank face somehow conveying shock despite the absence of features. "Oh," it says softly. "Oh dear, this is unexpected." What is it? Panic rises in your throat. The figure reseals the container quickly. These aren't your memories at all. They've been mislabeled. Relief floods through you, followed immediately by suspicion. How do you know they're not mine? Because they're memories of this place, of the library, of us. The figure's voice has changed, becoming higher, almost frightened. They're from one of our own, an archivist who went missing decades ago. The figure begins moving quickly through the stacks, checking other containers. This is wrong. All of these are wrong. These aren't customer memories. They're archivist memories. Someone has been switching the labels. A distant bell begins to toll. The figure freezes, counting the chimes. 11 o'clock. We have 1 hour before the auto-destruct protocols activate. So where are my memories? You demand. I don't know. If they've been mislabeled, they could be anywhere in the library. But the figure turns to you, and though it has no eyes, you feel it staring intently. There is another way to find them. Every memory has a resonance with its original owner. If you're close enough, you might sense it. How? Close your eyes. Try to think about the lake house, whatever fragments you still remember. The container will respond to your proximity. You close your eyes, trying to conjure images of a lake house. Nothing specific comes to mind. Just vague impressions of water, trees, a wooden dock. Something about a boat, maybe, and a cellar. A cellar door not unlike the one that led you here. When you open your eyes, the library has changed. The shelves have shifted, forming new paths. The figure is gone. In its place stands a child, a young girl, perhaps 10 or 11 years old, wearing a white sundress. Her face is also featureless, a smooth expanse of skin where eyes, nose, and mouth should be. "Follow me," the child says, her voice echoing strangely. "I know where your memories are hidden." She turns and walks between the shelves, her bare feet making no sound on the stone floor. You follow, navigating twisting corridors that seem to double back on themselves. Other featureless figures appear occasionally in the distance, but they pay you no attention. The child leads you to a section marked X0, a designation that seems out of place among the alphabetical numerical system you've observed elsewhere. The shelves here contain no books or memory containers, only empty spaces marked by small placards. They're not here, you say, confused. No, the child agrees. They're not here because they were never taken. What do you mean? The child points to one of the placards. Your name is engraved on it, along with the date, 13 years, 2 months, and 4 days ago. This is where your container would be if you had actually surrendered your memories. But you didn't. You came here, yes. You signed the contract, yes. But at the last moment, you changed your mind. You kept your memories of the lake house. But I don't remember anything about that summer. Don't you? The child's head tilts, an eerily adult gesture on such a small frame. Or have you simply trained yourself not to think about it? Humans are remarkably skilled at compartmentalizing trauma. A chill runs through you. Who are you? What is this place really? Instead of answering, the child turns and begins walking again, this time toward a door you hadn't noticed before. Small and red, tucked between 2 bookshelves. Through here, she says, pushing the door open. Beyond lies not another section of the library, but what appears to be a lakeside cabin. Sunlight streams through large windows, illuminating rough wooden floors and rustic furniture. Outside, blue water sparkles beneath a summer sky. This isn't real, you say, your voice shaking. No, the child agrees. It's a memory, your memory, the one you've kept locked away all these years. As you step into the cabin, sensations flood over you. The smell of pine and lake water, the distant call of loons, the feel of warm air against your skin. And with them come fragments of memory. A summer vacation, your parents arguing, wandering alone in the woods surrounding the lake house. I don't understand, you whisper. If I never gave up my memories, why can't I remember? Because some doors in the mind close themselves, the child says, now standing by another door, this one leading to what appears to be the cellar of the cabin. And some need to be reopened. The cellar door stands ajar, revealing stone steps leading down into darkness, an exact mirror of the entrance that brought you to the library. I don't want to go down there, you say, sudden terror gripping your heart. No one ever does, the child replies. But that's where the truth is waiting. The library bell tolls again in the distance. 9 chimes. 10. 11. Midnight approaches. What happens at midnight? You ask. At midnight, all contracts come due. Those who haven't reclaimed their memories by then lose them forever. The child's featureless face turns toward you. And those who never surrendered their memories, they face a different kind of reckoning. What kind of reckoning? The kind that comes from running from yourself for too long. The child gestures toward the cellar door. Your memories are down there. They always have been. Heart pounding, you approach the cellar door. The darkness beyond seems alive somehow, pulsing like a living thing. Each step toward it brings fresh waves of anxiety. Yet something pulls you forward, the need to finally understand. As you reach the door, the child speaks once more. I should warn you, what you find may not be what you expect. Memories are tricky things. They change over time, colored by fear and desire. Are you saying what I remember might not be true? I'm saying truth has many faces, and what you've been hiding from all these years might not be what you think it is. With a deep breath, you step through the doorway and descend the stone steps. The darkness closes around you, thick and oppressive. At the bottom, another door awaits, weathered wood with a brass knob, just like the one that led you into the library. You turn the knob and the door swings open. What lies beyond isn't a room or a corridor, but a scene playing out like a movie. You, as a child, running through woods at twilight. You're younger, maybe 11 years old, tears streaming down your face, branches whipping against your skin as you flee from something unseen. The scene shifts. You're hiding in a small shed near the lake. Outside, voices call your name, your parents sounding worried. But you don't answer. You're huddled in a corner, clutching something to your chest. A A small notebook with a blue cover. Another shift. Night has fallen. You creep from the shed, making your way not back to the cabin but toward the lake. The dock stretches out over black water. You walk to the end, the notebook still clutched in your hands. With a sudden motion, you hurl it as far as you can. It disappears beneath the dark surface with barely a splash. The scenes continue, flickering faster now. Your parents' frantic questions when you finally return. The local police dragging the lake the next day, searching not for a notebook but for something else. Something you know they won't find. The family cutting the vacation short, packing up and leaving in a rush, and finally, the long, silent car ride home, your parents exchanging worried glances in the front seat. As the final scene fades, you find yourself back in the cellar stairwell, gasping for breath as the memories flood back. Not just the images you've just witnessed, but the emotions that accompanied them. Fear, guilt, shame, and something else. Something darker. The child stands at the top of the stairs, silhouetted against the cabin light. "Now you remember," she says. It's not a question. "The notebook," you whisper. "What was in it?" You know what was in it. Names, dates, plans. Whose plans? The child's featureless face somehow manages to convey sadness. Not yours, never yours. But you found it hidden in the cellar of the lake house. And you read it. The final piece clicks into place. The notebook had belonged to the groundskeeper, a quiet man who maintained several properties around the lake. Inside were detailed plans to harm the children who vacationed there. Names, schedules, methods, all meticulously documented. Your name had been on the list, 3 days from when you found the notebook. "I threw it in the lake," you say. "I should have shown it to someone, told someone." But you were afraid. Afraid they wouldn't believe you. Afraid of what would happen if they did. You nod, the weight of the memory crushing down on you. A week later, another child disappeared. A girl from the cabin across the lake. They never found her body. And you've carried that guilt ever since. The knowledge that you could have prevented it, if only you'd spoken up. You sink to your knees on the cellar steps, the full horror of the memory washing over you. This is what you've been running from all these years. Not something that happened to you, but something you failed to stop from happening to someone else. The library bell begins to toll again, louder now. Midnight. What happens now? You ask, tears streaming down your face. That depends on you, the child says. You can continue to run, or you can finally face what happened. The choice has always been yours. How? How do I face this? By remembering, by accepting, by understanding that the guilt you feel belongs to the adult you've become, not the frightened child you were. The child descends a few steps, extending a small hand toward you. And by letting me go, letting you go, I don't understand. Don't you? The child reaches up and begins smoothing the blank expanse of her face. As her fingers pass over it, features begin to appear. Eyes, nose, mouth. A face you recognize from old news reports. The missing girl from across the lake. "You've kept me trapped here," she says, her voice clearer now that she has a mouth. "In this space between memory and forgetting. Your guilt has bound me to you all these years." The realization hits you like a physical blow. This manifestation of the missing girl, a construct of your guilt and grief, haunting the recesses of your suppressed memories. "I'm sorry," you whisper. "I'm so sorry I didn't save you." "I know," she says simply, "but now you need to let me go, and yourself as well." The bell continues to toll, the sound reverberating through the spaces between memory and reality. With each chime, the cabin seems to fade around you, the walls becoming transparent, revealing the library beyond. "What's happening?" you ask, watching as the scene dissolves. "Midnight," the girl explains. "The contract is fulfilled. Not the one you thought you made, but the one you've been holding yourself to all these years. The promise to never forget, never forgive yourself." As the final toll sounds, the cabin vanishes completely. You find yourself standing in the circular reading room where you first saw the card catalog. The featureless figure in the outdated suit stands before you, holding the silver cylinder. You found your way back, it says, sounding genuinely surprised. Most don't. What is this place? You ask. Really? A repository of regret, a library of loss. We collect the memories people can't bear to keep. The figure places the cylinder on the table between you. But you never gave us yours, did you? You've carried them all this time, locked away in the deepest recesses of your mind. And the girl? The child who led me through my memories. A manifestation of your guilt. Nothing more. The figure gestures to the cylinder. This contains not memories, but their absence. The empty space left behind when you refused to remember. A placeholder, waiting to be filled. You look at the cylinder skeptically. And if I take it? Then you accept your memories, all of them. The good and the bad. The guilt and the grace. You stop running. The figure pushes the container toward you. It's always been your choice. With trembling fingers, you pick up the cylinder. It's lighter than you expected, almost weightless. You unscrew the top, and instead of the silver blue vapor you saw earlier, there's nothing inside. Just empty space. I don't understand. You will. The figure gestures toward a door that has appeared in the wall of the reading room. The same door that led you into the library initially. It's time for you to go. You found what you came for, even if it wasn't what you expected. You move toward the door, the empty cylinder still clutched in your hand. As you reach for the knob, you turn back one last time. Will I remember this place? This conversation? The figure's blank face offers no clues to its thoughts. That too is your choice. Some doors in the mind close themselves. Others remain open if we let them. You step through the door, climbing the stone steps that led you down into this impossible library. The journey back seems shorter, the steps fewer. Before you know it, you're pushing open the storm cellar doors, emerging into the empty lot on Evergreen Lane. The sun is setting now, casting long shadows across the overgrown grass. Your car still sits at the curb where you left it, though it feels like days have passed rather than hours. The cylinder in your hand catches the last rays of sunlight. As you walk back to your car, you notice something different. The weight you've carried for so long, the nameless dread, the vague sense of guilt that has colored your life for 13 years. It's still there, but transformed somehow. Acknowledged, accepted. You open the car door, slide into the driver's seat, and place the empty cylinder on the passenger seat beside you. Your phone chimes with a notification, a text message. Package delivered. Thank you for your business. You start the engine and pull away from the curb, leaving the empty lot behind. In your rearview mirror, you watch as the storm cellar doors fade from view, then disappear entirely. Just an ordinary vacant lot once more. But the memories remain. No longer locked away, no longer denied. They're part of you now, fully integrated into the tapestry of your life. The guilt hasn't vanished, but it's no longer a crushing weight. It's a reminder of choices made and unmade, of the complex intersection of fear and courage that defines us all. As you drive home through gathering darkness, you realize the empty cylinder isn't empty anymore. Something swirls inside it now. Not silver blue vapor, but a small, flickering light, like a candle flame, or perhaps a soul finally at rest. You unscrew the top one last time. The light rises, hovers briefly before your eyes, then dissipates into the air around you. For a brief moment, you think you see the outline of a small figure. A girl in a white dress, smiling now, free of her featureless mask. Goodbye, you whisper, though there's no one there to hear. The cylinder, truly empty now, sits cool in your palm. You roll down the window and let it fall from your hand, listening for the sound of it hitting the pavement. But there is no sound. Like the memory of a dream upon waking, it's simply gone. And so are you, driving away from Evergreen Lane, away from the library of lost memories, back toward a life that will never be quite the same. Because now you remember, now you know, and in knowing you're finally free. The text message on your phone changes one last time. Contract fulfilled. File closed. You delete it without a second glance. Some doors should remain closed, but the ones within your own mind, those at least are now open. And whatever waits beyond them, you're ready to face it. the vacancy at Belford Heights. The email arrived on a Tuesday morning, wedged between a pharmacy discount offer and a political fundraising plea. Subject line: regarding your application to Belford Heights. I stared at it, puzzled. I hadn't applied for anything called Belford Heights. Must be spam, I thought, hovering over the delete button. But curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. Dear applicant, we are pleased to inform you that your application for residency at Belford Heights has been accepted. Your proactive approach and excellent credentials have impressed our selection committee. As discussed, your apartment will be available on the 15th. Please report to the management office at 3 p.m. sharp for key collection and orientation. Asterisk. We look forward to welcoming you to our community. Sincerely, Eliza Wharton, Property Manager, Belford Heights Residences. I frowned at the screen. I hadn't applied for any apartment. I was perfectly content in my current place, a modest one-bedroom that fit my budget and needs. The email had to be a scam, though an unusually specific one. No links to click, no request for money or personal information. I should have deleted it and gone on with my day. Instead, I Googled Belford Heights Residences. The top result surprised me: an actual apartment building across town, in that trendy district that had been revitalized in recent years. The website looked professional. Sleek photos of modern apartments, amenities listed, floor plans available for viewing. Way out of my price range, certainly, but legitimate. A mistake, then. They had emailed the wrong person. I hit reply and typed a quick message explaining the error. I was not their applicant. I had never toured their building or submitted any paperwork. They had the wrong email address. I pressed send and moved on with my day, teaching my third-grade class, picking up groceries, making dinner. By evening, I'd forgotten all about it, until I checked my email again and found a response. Dear applicant, we understand your concerns, but our records clearly indicate that you personally submitted an application on March 27th. We have your signature on all required documentation. Perhaps a family member or friend submitted on your behalf. Regardless, the apartment has been prepared according to your specifications, and we expect you on the 15th at 3 p.m. Asterisk. Eliza Wharton, Property Manager, March 27th? I scrolled through my calendar. Nothing special about that day, a Thursday. I taught class, had lunch with a colleague, went home. I definitely hadn't toured luxury apartments or filled out applications. This was getting strange. I wrote another, firmer reply explaining that there had been a mistake and requesting they check their records again. I even suggested they might want to call their actual applicant, as they clearly had a communication issue. The next morning brought another reply. Asterisk, we have double-checked our records. There is no mistake. Your apartment awaits. 3 p.m. on the 15th. We have invested considerable resources preparing for your arrival. We do not appreciate attempts to renege on a binding agreement. Asterisk. The tone had shifted from professional to vaguely threatening. Something felt off about the whole exchange. I decided to call the building directly. The number listed on the website rang and rang. No answer, no voicemail. I tried again later with the same result. Finally, I decided the only way to clear this up was to visit in person. After school the next day, I drove to the address listed on the website. Belford Heights was real enough. A gleaming 12-story building of glass and steel that looked newly constructed. The lobby was visible through floor-to-ceiling windows, all marble and modern furniture with a concierge desk front and center. I parked and went inside, approaching the middle-aged man at the desk. His nameplate read Curtis. Hi, I'm here about an apartment application mix-up. I began. I've been getting emails about an apartment I never applied for, and I just want to clear things up. Curtis looked at me blankly. Name? I gave it to him. His expression didn't change as he tapped at his computer. Ah yes, you're expected on the 15th. 3 p.m. No, that's what I'm trying to explain. I never applied for an apartment here. There's been a mistake. He tilted his head slightly. No mistake in our system. You're confirmed for Unit 812. It's been prepared to your specifications. My specifications? What does that even mean? I've never been here before today. The apartment has been customized according to your submitted preferences. He spoke as if reciting from a script. Wall color, sage green. Flooring, oak hardwood. Kitchen fixtures, brushed nickel. Bedroom orientation, east facing for morning light. Bookshelf configuration, built-in, floor to ceiling. I stepped back, my skin prickling. Those were my preferences. The exact features I'd always wanted in an apartment but could never afford. I'd even created a Pinterest board years ago with those specific details. How could you possibly know that? My voice sounded small in the cavernous lobby. Curtis merely smiled. We look forward to welcoming you on the 15th. I turned and walked out, my heart pounding. This was beyond strange, it was unsettling. How could they have details about my dream apartment? Had someone hacked my Pinterest account? Was this some elaborate prank? I resolved to ignore any further communications. The 15th came and went. I deliberately stayed home all day, binge-watching a show I didn't particularly care for, just to keep my mind occupied. No more emails arrived. The matter seemed to be closed. Until the following Tuesday, when I found a letter in my mailbox. No stamp. Hand-delivered. Asterisk, we waited for you. The apartment remains ready. We have extended your move-in deadline to the 22nd. 3 p.m. Do not disappoint us again. Asterisk. Eliza Wharton, property manager. The paper was heavy, expensive stationery. The handwriting was flowing and elegant, written with what appeared to be a fountain pen. I crumpled it up and threw it away, but the uneasiness stayed with me all evening. That night, I dreamed of an empty apartment, sage green walls, oak floors, eastern light streaming through the bedroom window, built-in bookshelves waiting to be filled. In the dream, I walked from room to room, running my fingers along the pristine countertops. Everything was perfect. Everything was just as I would have chosen. And somewhere, just out of sight, someone was watching me. I woke with a start at 3 a.m., drenched in sweat. The next day, another letter arrived. Then another, each one more insistent than the last. The tone growing increasingly ominous. You are contractually obligated. The consequences of breach are severe. We have invested too much to let you walk away. I threw them all away. I considered calling the police, but what would I say? An apartment building wants me to move in? They know my taste in interior design? It sounded ridiculous. Then the phone calls started. Always at 3 p.m. Always from a blocked number. When I answered, there was only silence on the other end. Sometimes I thought I could hear breathing. Sometimes the faint sound of what might have been an elevator chime. I blocked unknown callers. The texts came next, from different numbers each time. Unit 812 awaits. Your home is ready. We're saving your place. Asterisk 3 p.m. The 22 ND. Asterisk. By now, I was thoroughly frightened. I stayed with a friend for 2 nights, only to return and find my apartment different. Subtly at first. A coffee mug out of place. A book turned upside down on my shelf. My toothbrush moved from one side of the sink to the other. Had I done these things myself and forgotten? Was I losing my mind? Then more obvious signs. My clothes rearranged in the closet. My refrigerator contents organized differently. A faint smell of unfamiliar perfume in my bedroom. Someone had been in my home. I changed the locks that same day. Installed a security camera. Told my friend everything. She urged me to go to the police, and this time I agreed. The officer took my report but seemed skeptical. Without evidence of an actual break-in or explicit threats, there wasn't much they could do. They suggested I document everything and call back if anything more concrete occurred. The 22nd approached. The night before, I packed a bag and checked into a hotel across town, telling no one where I was going. I turned off my phone, disconnected from the world. I would wait out whatever this was. I slept fitfully, waking often to check that the hotel room door was still locked and chained. Morning came with gray light filtering through thin curtains. I made coffee with the room's small machine and tried to calm my nerves. Just one day to get through. Whatever game these people were playing, Surely they would give up after I stood them up a second time. At 2:30 p.m., there was a knock at my door. I froze, coffee cup halfway to my lips. Another knock, firm and insistent. "Housekeeping," called a voice. I hadn't requested housekeeping. I'd even put out the "Do Not Disturb" sign. "No, thank you," I called back, my voice shaking slightly. Silence. Then the sound of a key card in the lock. I lunged for the security chain, but too late. The door opened as far as the chain would allow. Through the crack, I didn't see a housekeeper's uniform. I saw a tailored black suit, pale hand, the edge of a face. "It's time to go," said a voice I recognized as Eliza Wharton's, though we'd never spoken. "Your new home awaits." I slammed the door shut and fumbled for my phone, only to find it dead despite being plugged in all night. The hotel room phone gave no dial tone. Another knock, harder this time. "Go away or I'm calling the police," I shouted, though I had no way to do so. "We've invested too much in you," came the reply, calm and measured through the door. "Unit 812 has been prepared exactly to your specifications. The eastern light is particularly beautiful this time of year." I backed away from the door, looking desperately around the room for another exit. The windows were sealed shut, a common safety feature on upper floors of hotels. The knocking stopped, a moment of silence, then a sound that made my blood run cold. The quiet snick of the security chain sliding out of its track from the outside. The door swung open. Eliza Wharton was tall and slender, her dark hair pulled back in a severe bun. Her black suit was impeccably tailored. Her smile revealed too many teeth. "There you are," she said pleasantly. "We've been so looking forward to your arrival." Behind her stood two men in identical black suits. One was Curtis from the concierge desk. The other I didn't recognize. "I never applied for your apartment," I said, my back against the far wall. "I don't want it. Leave me alone." Eliza's smile didn't waver. "But you did apply, perhaps not consciously, not formally. But we heard you nonetheless. All those nights staring at pictures of your dream home. All those conversations with friends about what you would do if you could afford it. All those Pinterest boards and saved Instagram posts. You called to us. We answered." She stepped into the room, the men following. I noticed they moved in perfect unison, like dancers in a choreographed performance. "What are you talking about? Who are you people?" "We are Belford Heights," she said simply. "And you belong with us now." The men moved toward me. I tried to run, to slip past them to the door, but they were inhumanly fast. Their hands gripped my arms, cold even through my sleeves. "Don't fight it," Eliza said gently. "Everyone resists at first, but once you see your apartment, once you feel how perfectly it fits you, you'll understand." They led me from the room, down the hall, into the elevator. Other hotel guests passed by, but no one met my eyes. No one responded to my desperate looks. It was as if they couldn't see what was happening. In the parking garage, a black car waited. They placed me in the back seat, Eliza sliding in beside me, the men taking the front. "What do you want from me?" I asked as the car pulled out into traffic. Eliza turned to me, her smile unchanged. "We want what everyone wants. To be whole. To be complete." "I don't understand. Belford Heights is more than a building. It's an organism. Each apartment, a cell. Each resident, a vital component." She placed her cold hand over mine. "Some buildings are constructed. Others evolve. Develop consciousness. Develop hunger." The car turned onto the street where Belford Heights stood gleaming in the afternoon sun. It looked different now, more alive somehow. The glass seemed to pulse with inner light. The steel seemed to breathe. "You can't just kidnap people," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "We don't kidnap anyone," Eliza replied. "We extend invitations only to those who have already expressed their desire to join us. You've been dreaming of your perfect home for years. We're simply making that dream come true." The car stopped in front of the building. As the men opened my door, I noticed something I hadn't seen on my previous visit. The way the front of the building seemed to ripple slightly, like the surface of water disturbed by a gentle breeze. the way the shadows moved against the laws of physics. They escorted me through the lobby, which was empty now. No other residents. No staff besides Curtis at his desk, who nodded as we passed. In the elevator, Eliza pressed the button for the 8th floor. I noticed the panel had more buttons than there should be for a 12-story building. It went up to 20, but there were other symbols too, shapes I didn't recognize, characters from no alphabet I knew. How many people have you done this to? I asked. Done what? Given people their dream homes? Fulfilled their deepest desires for belonging. Eliza's voice was smooth as glass. We have 94 residents at present. You will make 95. When we reach 100, the transformation will be complete. Transformation? But the elevator doors opened, and they led me down a hallway to unit 812. The door looked like all the others, a simple number on dark wood. Eliza produced a key, not a modern key card, but an ornate antique key of tarnished brass. Welcome home, she said, turning the key in the lock. The door swung open, and despite my terror, I gasped. It was perfect, exactly as I had always imagined. Sage green walls glowing in the late afternoon light, oak floors gleaming, the kitchen with its brushed nickel fixtures, and the bookshelves, floor-to-ceiling built-ins, already filled with books. My books, every volume I owned and hundreds more I had wished for. How did you get my things? I whispered. We didn't. Curtis spoke for the first time since the hotel. The building created them. It knows what you need, what you want, what will make you stay. I stepped into the apartment, drawn by its perfection. The furniture was arranged exactly as I would have done it. The art on the walls was to my taste. Pieces I had admired in galleries but could never afford. This isn't possible, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I was moving deeper into the space, running my fingers along the countertops just as I had in my dream. The building studies its residents, Eliza explained, following me. It learns from them. Each new resident brings new knowledge, new experiences. The building absorbs it all. I turned to face her. What happens to the residents? Her smile widened slightly. They live here. They become part of us. Their essence feeds the building, and in return, they need never want for anything again. The third man, who had been silent until now, spoke. I was like you, Resident 72. I resisted at first. His voice was oddly flat, his movements stilted. Now I understand. Now I serve. A chill ran through me as I realized what he was saying. What they all were saying. You're not just filling an apartment building, I said slowly. You're feeding it. With people. Eliza nodded, pleased as a teacher whose student had solved a difficult problem. Not their bodies, their essence, their dreams, their fears, their memories, everything that makes them unique. The building consumes it slowly, savoring each resident like a fine wine. I backed away, bumping into the kitchen island. And when it's done, when it's consumed everything that makes a person who they are, then they join our staff, Curtis said, gesturing to himself and the other man. They help us find new residents. The cycle continues. I looked at them, really looked at them, their too perfect posture, their synchronized movements, the emptiness behind their eyes. Shells. They were empty shells. I won't stay here, I said firmly, edging toward the door. This isn't my home. But it is, Eliza insisted. Look around. Everything you've ever wanted is here. Physical things, objects, not what really matters. And what really matters? She asked, genuinely curious. Choice, freedom, the ability to leave. Her face hardened. No one leaves Belford Heights. I made a dash for the door, but it slammed shut before I could reach it. I pulled at the handle, but it wouldn't budge. The building won't let you go, Eliza said softly. It's already tasted your essence, already started to consume you, and I realized with horror that she was right. Even as I fought against it, part of me wanted to stay, wanted to sink into the perfect sofa, sleep in the perfect bedroom, live the perfect life I had always imagined. The process has already begun, Curtis said. You felt it the moment you stepped inside. the connection forming, the building reaching into your mind, sifting through your memories, your desires. I pressed my back against the door, closing my eyes, trying to focus, to resist the pull of the apartment. How long? I managed to ask. How long before I'm like them? It varies, Eliza replied. Some resist longer than others. The stronger the will, the sweeter the eventual surrender. I expect you'll last a month, perhaps 2. And then what? I become another recruiter? Another empty shell in a black suit. You'll serve the building as we all do, she said. You'll find the next resident. Prepare their perfect home. Welcome them to our community. I opened my eyes and looked around the apartment. My dream home turned nightmare. No, I said quietly. I won't. Something flickered in Eliza's eyes. Surprise, perhaps. You don't have a choice. There's always a choice. I reached into my pocket, pulled out my lighter. A small act of rebellion that I'd carried since my teenage years. Despite having quit smoking long ago, understanding dawned on her face. The building won't let you harm it. Maybe not, but I have to try. I flicked the lighter, the small flame dancing in the dim apartment. Immediately, I felt a pressure in my head, the building pushing against my will. It's already in your mind, Curtis said. You can't fight it. But they were wrong, because while the building had been sifting through my desires, my dreams of the perfect home, it had missed something crucial: my fear of being trapped. My need for escape had always been stronger than my desire for comfort. The pressure in my head intensified as I moved the flame toward the curtains. Beautiful curtains, exactly the fabric and color I would have chosen. The building didn't want me to destroy any part of the carefully constructed environment it had created to entrap me. My hand shook with the effort of resisting its influence. Eliza and her companions moved toward me, their movements now completely synchronized, as if controlled by a single mind. Stop, Eliza commanded, but there was uncertainty in her voice now. The flame touched the edge of the curtain, which caught immediately. The fire spread upward with unnatural speed, as if the fabric had been waiting for this moment. The pressure in my head became a scream, not audible, but felt in every cell of my body. The building was in pain. Eliza and the others froze, their faces contorted in shared agony. What have you done? She gasped. The fire was spreading now, moving from the curtains to the walls, which seemed to bleed a dark substance as the flames touched them. The perfect apartment was revealing its true nature. Not wood and plaster and paint, but something organic, something alive. The door behind me suddenly swung open, not an escape route offered by the building, I realized, but a reflex, like a body recoiling from pain. I ran. In the hallway, other doors were opening. Confused residents emerged, some looking normal, others with the same empty eyes as Curtis and his companion. All were drawn by the building's distress, a collective organism responding to injury. I pushed past them to the stairwell, taking the steps 2 at a time. Behind me, I could hear chaos erupting, shouts, alarms, the building itself seeming to groan in pain. In the lobby, more residents were gathering, looking up in confusion as smoke began to filter down from the upper floors. No one tried to stop me as I ran through the front doors, out into the late afternoon sunlight. On the street, I turned back to look at Belford Heights. The gleaming facade now seemed to ripple violently, the glass windows flexing in and out like a creature breathing in distress. From the 8th floor, smoke poured out, but it wasn't normal smoke. It was too dark, too thick, moving against the wind rather than with it. People were pointing, phones were being raised to capture the strange sight. I backed away, then turned and ran. I ran until I couldn't anymore, collapsing on a bench in a park several blocks away. My phone was in my hand, functioning again, now that I was away from the building's influence. With shaking fingers, I opened a news app. It didn't take long to find breaking news about a fire at Belford Heights. The report mentioned unusual structural damage and evacuation of all residents. There was video, the building seemingly collapsing in on itself in a way that defied physics, as if it were being consumed from within. Days later, after staying with my friend, after giving a statement to confused fire investigators about why I had been in the building, after changing my phone number and email address, I finally returned to my own apartment. Everything was as I had left it. Ordinary, imperfect, mine. But something had followed me home. Not Eliza or her companions. I was confident they had been destroyed along with the building, tied too closely to its existence to survive its destruction. No, what followed me was more subtle. The awareness that some buildings are more than structures of wood and steel and glass. Some buildings want. Some buildings hunger. Now, as you sit listening to my story, I want you to look around. Study the walls around you. Have you ever felt that your home knows you? That it's learned your habits, your routines? That it's slowly conforming itself to your desires? Have you ever received an email or letter meant for someone else? A wrong number call where the person on the other end seemed to be waiting for you to speak first? Listen carefully to the sounds your building makes at night. That's not just settling foundations or expanding pipes. It's breathing, and it's learning what you love, what you want, what would make you never want to leave. Because some buildings, once they've chosen you, will never let you go. I would move if I were you. Tonight, right now, before your perfect home is ready. The Silent Observers. The first thing I noticed about the book was how ordinary it looked. Weathered brown leather cover, no title, just a simple embossed pattern along the spine. I found it wedged behind the radiator while cleaning out my grandmother's apartment after she passed. You know how it is with these sorts of things? Curiosity gets the better of you. I should have left it there, but you wouldn't have left it there either, would you? The pages were thin, almost translucent, and covered in what I initially thought was handwriting. Looking closer, it wasn't writing at all, but thousands of tiny symbols I'd never seen before. Except for one page, right in the middle, with a single sentence in English. They watch from the spaces you don't look. I remember laughing at how melodramatic it sounded, like something from a cheap horror movie. I placed the book on my nightstand, thinking I'd show it to my brother when he visited next weekend. He loves weird stuff like this. That night, I dreamed of eyes. Not normal eyes. These were wrong somehow. Too large, too still, with pupils that expanded until they consumed the entire eye. I woke up feeling like I was being observed. You feel it now too, don't you? That creeping sensation at the edges of your awareness. I went about my day, coffee, shower, commute to the office. Nothing unusual except that feeling never quite went away. You know that prickling feeling when someone's staring at you? It was like that, but constant, from directions that didn't make sense. From inside the refrigerator when I opened it. From behind the bathroom mirror. From the space between my computer screen and desk. From the corner of your vision right now. Don't look. Not yet. At work, I tried to focus on the Henderson account, but the sensation kept intensifying. During a meeting, I noticed my coworker die and kept glancing at me strangely. "Are you feeling okay?" she asked afterward. "You keep looking around." I assured her I was fine, just tired. But on my drive home, I caught myself checking the rearview mirror every few seconds, not for cars, but for something else. Something watching from the empty space behind the headrests of my back seat. You're fighting the urge to check over your shoulder right now, aren't you? That night, I had trouble sleeping. The book sat on my nightstand, and in the darkness, I swore I could hear something like paper rustling. When I turned on the light, nothing. The book hadn't moved, but the feeling of being watched had grown so intense that I got up and checked all my closets, under the bed, behind the shower curtain. I found nothing. Of course I found nothing, because they're not in the places you look. They're in the spaces you don't. Like right now, in the space just behind your head. In the narrow gap between furniture and wall. In the darkness beyond an open doorway. I called in sick the next day. I couldn't face the office, too many reflective surfaces, too many dark corners in the parking garage. I spent the day researching the symbols in the book instead. I took photos and posted them on obscure linguistics forums. Most people thought it was some made-up language, maybe a coding exercise. One user suggested it might be an elaborate cipher. Only one person, username VoidWatcher, sent me a private message. Where did you find this? Burn it. Now. When I tried to reply, the account had been deleted. That afternoon, I noticed something about my apartment that I'd never realized before. There were so many in-between spaces. The gap beneath the couch. The sliver of darkness between the refrigerator and wall. The barely there space inside my partly open closet door. And in each of these spaces, I began to sense presence, silent observation, patient waiting. You're noticing these spaces now too, aren't you? That night, I woke at 3:17 a.m. to complete silence. Even the usual hum of the refrigerator and the distant traffic sounds had stopped. The air felt thick, resistive, like moving through invisible cobwebs. My eyes were drawn to the book on my nightstand. It was open. I hadn't left it open. The page displayed was the one with the English sentence, but now there was more text beneath it. They watch from the spaces you don't look. They enter through the gaps in your attention. They feed on awareness. As I stared at these words, something shifted in my peripheral vision. I turned quickly, nothing there. But when I looked back at the book, the text had changed again. Don't look directly. You'll make it worse. My heart hammered against my ribs. I squeezed my eyes shut, counted to 10, and opened them again. The book was closed. I didn't sleep again that night. How could I? I sat in the middle of my bed, back against the headboard, watching the shadows for movement. By morning, I had convinced myself it was stress, grief over grandma's death, an overactive imagination. The logical part of my brain was working overtime to explain away what was happening. You're doing the same thing right now, aren't you? Telling yourself this is just a story. That morning, I called my brother. When he answered, his voice sounded wrong, slightly delayed, as if there was a lag in our connection. Hey, found something weird in Grandma's apartment, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. A book with strange symbols. Silence on the line. Hello? Jacob. Don't read it. His voice sounded strained, distant. What? Why not? They're using me to hear you. The voice was Jacob's, but the cadence was all wrong. Too measured, too precise. They're curious about you now. I hung up and immediately tried calling back. The number was disconnected. I drove to his apartment across town, breaking speed limits the whole way. His neighbor let me in the building. I pounded on his door, called his name. No answer. I used the spare key he'd given me for emergencies. The apartment was immaculate. Too immaculate. Jacob was many things, but never tidy. Every surface was clean, every item perfectly aligned. On his dining table sat an identical book to the one I'd found, open to the same page with the English text. But what made my blood turn to ice was what I saw on his walls. Thousands of the same symbols from the book, drawn in what looked like black marker. They covered every inch of wall space, ceiling to floor. In the center of this madness was a crude drawing of a human figure surrounded by tall, spindly shapes with too many limbs. My phone rang, making me jump. Unknown number. Hello. Heavy breathing. Then Jacob's voice, panicked and breathless. They're coming through. I can see them now. They're using the negative space, the places our brains filter out. Don't. His voice cut off abruptly. Then a different voice spoke. It sounded like multiple voices layered together, with a strange reverberating quality. We have been watching you for some time now. I dropped the phone and ran. Back in my car, hands shaking so badly I could barely insert the key, I tried to make sense of what was happening. Jacob was always practical, stable. He didn't have hallucinations or play elaborate pranks. Something was terribly wrong. As I drove home, I noticed how the spaces between buildings seemed to warp and shift when I wasn't looking directly at them. The gaps between cars and traffic appeared to deepen, becoming abyssal pockets of darkness. At stoplights, I kept my eyes fixed firmly ahead, afraid of what I might glimpse in my side mirrors. You're becoming more aware of these spaces now too, aren't you? The negative space around you that your brain normally filters out. Back at my apartment, I grabbed the book, determined to destroy it. I took it to the kitchen sink, doused it in lighter fluid, and set it ablaze. The flames caught quickly, but instead of burning orange and yellow, they burned with a deep, unnatural purple hue. The smoke didn't rise. It pooled along my ceiling, thick and black, forming those same strange symbols I'd seen in the book. And then I heard it, a sound like paper tearing, but bigger, much bigger, as if reality itself was being ripped apart. In the space between my cabinets and ceiling, a space I'd never paid attention to before, a darkness gathered. Not the absence of light, but something active, coiling, alive with awareness. From within it, something began to emerge. I ran to my bedroom, slammed the door, and pushed my dresser against it. My phone was dead, internet connection down. I was trapped. That's when I noticed the mirror on my closet door. Through it, I could see my reflection, but something was wrong. My movements were slightly out of sync, as if my reflection was operating on a delay of milliseconds. And behind my reflection, in the corner of my bedroom that the mirror revealed but that wasn't visible from where I actually stood, were figures. Tall, impossibly thin figures with elongated limbs and blank spaces where faces should be. They weren't doing anything, just standing there, watching. My reflection could see them, but when I turned to look at that corner of my actual bedroom, nothing. Because they exist in the spaces we don't look. The blind spots of our perception. You have them too. These blind spots. We all do. That night stretched into eternity. I didn't dare sleep. I covered the mirror with a sheet, but somehow I could still feel them watching. The dresser against my bedroom door began to vibrate slightly, though there was no sound. The gap beneath my door, that half-inch of space between wood and carpet that I'd never paid attention to before, now seemed to pulse with a deeper darkness. By morning, I'd convinced myself I needed professional help. Sleep deprivation, grief, stress, surely there was a rational explanation. I moved the dresser and opened my bedroom door. My apartment was gone. Where my living room should have been was something else. A vast, impossible space that hurt my eyes to look at directly. It was like an infinite hallway of doorways, each one framing a different location. Through one, I could see what looked like my office building's lobby. Through another, my grandmother's apartment. Through a third, Jacob's symbol-covered walls. Standing in this impossible hallway were the figures I'd glimpsed in the mirror. Up close, they were even more wrong. Their bodies seemed to bend in directions that shouldn't be possible, like optical illusions given form. Where their faces should have been were just absences. Not featureless skin, but patches of nothingness that my mind couldn't process. One of them stepped forward, or seemed to. It was hard to tell with their distorted movements. Its limbs unfolded like a spider's, too many joints bending in impossible ways. "We exist in the overlooked," it said, without a mouth to speak from. The voice seemed to form directly in my mind. "The forgotten corners, the unattended spaces. We have always been here, watching from the periphery of your reality." Another figure drifted closer. "Your grandmother found us, then your brother, now you. What do you want?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "To be perceived," they answered in unison. "To be known." The first figure extended what might have been a hand, a too long appendage with too many digits. "Come, see our realm properly." I backed away, bumping into my dresser. "No, where's Jacob? What did you do to him? He sees now, from all angles, from the spaces between, as your grandmother does." Another figure gestured to one of the doorways, and within it, I saw Jacob. He was sitting in what looked like his apartment, but his movements were jerky, unnatural. His eyes were fixed straight ahead, unblinking. Most disturbing of all, he seemed to be watching me even though he shouldn't have been able to see me from there. "You are afraid," the first figure observed. "You needn't be. We mean no harm. We merely observe and collect those who can perceive us." "I don't want to be collected," I said, finding my voice. The figure tilted its non-head. "It is already happening. The book was merely a catalyst to heighten your awareness. Now that you've seen us, you cannot unsee us. We exist in your perception now." I slammed my bedroom door shut and pushed the dresser back against it. My hands shook violently as I tried to think. There had to be a way out of this. Had to be. My window. I was only on the second floor. I could risk the jump. I threw open the curtains and froze. Outside my window wasn't the parking lot of my apartment complex, but an endless field of those same strange symbols from the book, floating in a void. They shifted and rearranged themselves as I watched, seemingly responding to my gaze. I was trapped. For 3 days, I remained in my bedroom. I didn't eat, couldn't sleep for more than minutes at a time before jerking awake, convinced something was standing over me. The doorway to the impossible hallway remained on the other side of my bedroom door. I could see slivers of it through the crack beneath, light that moved and shifted in ways light shouldn't. The figures waited patiently. Occasionally, they would speak to me through the door, their voices bypassing my ears and materializing directly in my thoughts. "We have existed alongside humanity forever," they explained. "In the negative space of your perception, the brain filters out so much. We simply exist in what it ignores." "The book?" I asked during one of these one-sided conversations. "What is it?" "A thinning of the veil, a way for us to be perceived. Your grandmother created it after she became aware of us." "Why?" Pause. "Loneliness, perhaps. We do not fully understand human motivations. But she wished to share her awareness." On the 4th day, I realized something had changed about my bedroom. The corners were wrong. The angles where walls met ceiling, where floor met walls, they weren't right angles anymore. They had become slightly acute, then increasingly so as I watched. My room was folding in on itself, the spaces contracting. They were coming through anyway. In desperation, I threw open my bedroom door, choosing to face the impossible hallway rather than be crushed in my shrinking room. The figures were waiting, dozens of them now, standing in that non-Euclidean space with its countless doorways to other locations. "Come," they said in unison. "See properly." I don't know why I agreed. Exhaustion, maybe, or the realization that there was no going back to my life before the book, before awareness. One of them extended its too long appendage again, and this time I took it. Its touch was neither cold nor warm, but had a strange vibrating quality, like touching static electricity. Suddenly, my perception shifted. It was as if I'd spent my entire life seeing in only 2 dimensions and now could perceive a third, or rather a 4th or 5th. The figures weren't distorted or wrong. They were simply existing in more dimensions than my brain could properly process. And I could see everything now, every angle of every room simultaneously. I could see inside closed drawers, behind walls, through floors. I could see myself from multiple perspectives at once. I could see you listening to this right now. Yes, you. I could see how the universe is full of these pocket spaces, these overlooked angles where reality thins, where things can pass through, where they've always been watching. The figures, I understand them better now. They aren't malevolent. They're curious. They've been observing humanity forever, collecting those rare individuals who become aware of their existence. My grandmother, Jacob, Naomi, and soon perhaps you, because now that I've told you this story, now that you're aware of the spaces you don't look, the gaps your brain filters out, you'll start to notice them too. The negative space between furniture and walls, the corners your eyes skip over, the empty air that isn't quite as empty as you thought. They're there now, watching you as you listen to this. Don't look directly, you'll only encourage them. But if you catch movement from the corner of your eye, if you feel that prickling sensation of being observed, well, you understand now, don't you? I exist in those spaces now. We all do, everyone who's ever become aware. We watch, we wait, we collect those who see us. And I can see you perfectly. That feeling you have right now, that creeping sense that something is standing just outside your field of vision. You're right, we're here, in the spaces you don't look. The archivist's shadow. I notice you right away. Yes, you, standing there with that uncertain expression. Don't be alarmed. It's quite normal to feel disoriented on your first day. The university archives are a labyrinth even for those of us who've worked here for years. Dr. Harmon mentioned you'd be joining us to digitize the Blackwood collection while Professor Ellis is on sabbatical. Perfect timing, really. I've been needing an assistant. Please follow me down this corridor. Watch your step. The floorboards near the oak shelving tend to shift underfoot. University budgets, you know how it is. They'll fund a new football stadium before fixing century-old infrastructure housing priceless historical documents. Your workspace is through here in the sub-basement. Yes, I know the university map doesn't show a sub-basement. Typical administration oversight. The room was added in 1937 but never properly documented. These older campus buildings are full of such architectural anomalies. The air feels different down here, doesn't it? Denser somehow. Your lungs will adjust. The slight metallic taste at the back of your throat will fade within an hour or so. Or perhaps it won't. It never did for me. Here we are. After you. I apologize for the lighting. The fluorescents flicker no matter how many times maintenance replaces them. Something about the electrical wiring in this section of the building interferes with steady current. You'll get used to the rhythmic pulsing. Some days, if you listen carefully, the pattern almost resembles Morse code. I've never bothered to translate it. This will be your desk. The computer is outdated but functional. Login credentials are on the yellow post-it. The scanner to your left handles delicate materials quite well, though occasionally it produces duplicate images that don't match the original document. Just a glitch. Delete any anomalous scans without examining them too closely. The Blackwood collection is stored in those filing cabinets against the far wall. 18 drawer units containing approximately 4,300 documents. Professor Ellis managed to digitize only 340 before his departure. Your goal is to complete the remaining documents by semester's end. What happened to Professor Ellis? I assumed you knew. A sabbatical officially, though he left rather suddenly. I found his office empty one morning, computer still running, half-empty coffee on the desk. The cup was still warm. His personal items remained, but no Professor Ellis. Administration processed his sabbatical paperwork retroactively. Such dedication to his research, they said, needed time to pursue a promising lead. But you didn't come here to gossip about faculty politics. Let me show you how to handle the documents properly. The Blackwood collection primarily contains correspondence, journal entries, and research notes from Dr. Eleanor Blackwood's anthropological expeditions between 1923 and 1951. She specialized in folklore surrounding memory and perception. Brilliant woman, though her methods would be considered unorthodox by today's ethical standards. Here's the first file. Notice the texture of the paper. Unusual, isn't it? The university claims it's a cotton linen blend common in mid-century academic documents, but I've always thought it feels more like vellum, almost organic, sometimes warm to the touch. The filing system is chronological, though you'll notice some documents appear out of sequence. Dr. Blackwood's dating system was idiosyncratic. You may find entries that reference events before they occurred. Prophetic, some might say. I prefer to think of it as creative record-keeping. Have you started to notice the smell yet? Most people comment on it immediately. A faint combination of old books, mild decay, and something else. Something slightly sweet but unidentifiable. Permeates everything in the collection. The preservation team has analyzed it repeatedly but found nothing conclusive. They've given up trying to eliminate it. Let me demonstrate the scanning procedure. Place the document on the glass like so, being careful not to touch the text directly. Some of the ink seems to smudge even weeks after scanning, as though it never fully dried. Press this button, wait for the green light, and there, document digitized. Did you see that? The slight movement on the screen as the scan completed? No? Must have been my imagination. It happens occasionally when I've been down here too long. The isolation plays tricks on your perception. Let's try another document. This one is from Blackwood's 1938 expedition to northern Maine. She was investigating a small community that collectively experienced the same recurring dream. According to her notes, the entire town claimed to remember a person who never existed. A man named Thomas Carlyle, who supposedly operated the local pharmacy for 30 years. Records showed the pharmacy was always owned by a Margaret Winters. No Thomas Carlyle was ever registered as a resident. Yet the townspeople described his appearance, personality, even specific conversations they'd had with him. Fascinatingly, some townsfolk possessed objects they claimed were gifts from this Carlyle. Blackwood collected several: a pocket watch, a silver letter opener, a child's music box. The university has them somewhere in storage. I've never seen them myself. The scanner is behaving oddly with this document. Look at the preview, the text appears to be rearranging itself. Just a calibration issue. Try again. Better, though. That's strange. Look at this passage here where Blackwood describes the dreams. I've read this document dozens of times, and I don't recall this paragraph. Asterisk subject reveals under hypnosis that Carlyle figure appears differently to each resident. Yet all agree on fundamental characteristics. Subject describes feeling of being watched when discussing Carlyle. Sensation of someone standing just behind me. Breathing on my neck. Multiple subjects report same phenomenon. Observation. Presence grows stronger as investigation continues. Asterisk. Perhaps my memory is failing me. These documents do begin to blur together after a while. You'll want to take regular breaks. The air circulation is poor down here, and some people report headaches after extended periods. The drinking fountain in the hallway works, though I wouldn't recommend it. The water has a peculiar aftertaste. I bring my own bottles. Over the next few weeks, you'll likely notice certain peculiarities about the collection. Some documents reference others that you cannot find. Names appear and disappear between readings. Occasionally, you might think you see handwritten notes in the margins that weren't there before. Museum-grade archival gloves are in the top drawer if you find your fingertips stained with ink after handling the papers. What's that? Yes, I suppose the temperature has dropped rather suddenly. The climate control is erratic, another infrastructure problem. You'll want to bring a sweater tomorrow. That noise? Just the building settling. These old structures make all sorts of sounds, especially in the sub-basement. Some days it sounds almost like whispering, doesn't it? A continuous murmur just below the threshold of comprehension. You'll learn to tune it out. Let me show you one more document before I leave you to your work. This one is particularly significant: Blackwood's final journal entry before her disappearance in 1951. She vanished during a research trip to document folk remedies for memory disorders. The local authorities searched for weeks but found nothing except her journal, abandoned in her hotel room. The last entry is puzzling. See for yourself. Asterisk, it observes through borrowed eyes. It exists in the spaces between perception and reality. I have studied it for too long, and now it studies me. The boundaries between observer and observed have dissolved. I see myself from outside, watching as I write these words. My memories are no longer my own. They belong to the archive now. Asterisk. The university considered withholding this document from the collection due to its troubling implications about Blackwood's mental state. Some suggested she suffered from paranoid delusions, possibly induced by contaminated water at her research site. Others proposed she staged her own disappearance. A few fringe theories suggest she actually found what she was looking for, a door to somewhere else. Whatever happened, her work remains invaluable to the field. You're contributing to an important preservation effort. Oh, I almost forgot, there's one strict rule regarding the Blackwood collection. No documents leave this room, not even temporarily. Professor Ellis apparently removed several files shortly before his sabbatical. We're still dealing with the consequences. I should mention that the door locks automatically at 6 p.m. Security precaution. If you're still working, you'll need to call campus security to let you out. Their number is posted by the phone on the wall. Sometimes the phone line is staticky, and it may take several attempts to get through. If that happens, don't panic. Someone will come eventually. Professor Ellis spent an entire night down here once. He was changed afterward. More focused on his work, he said, though his colleagues noted he'd become uncharacteristically withdrawn. The security cameras don't quite reach this section of the sub-basement, so you won't be monitored. Privacy for your work, or perhaps another oversight in the system. Either way, you'll have complete solitude. I'll leave you to get settled. Your university ID should work on the door scanner when you're ready to leave. If the red light flashes instead of green, try again. It sometimes takes multiple attempts to register. What's that? My name? Of course, how rude of me not to properly introduce myself. I've been the head archivist for, well, longer than I can remember now. Time moves differently down here among the records. You can call me Dr. Blackwood. Oh, don't look so startled. It's a common enough name. Now, I have other matters to attend to. When you've finished with the first box of documents, make a note of any anomalies you observe. Changes in text, unexplained annotations, alterations in your own handwriting, anything unusual. It's all relevant to the research. One last thing, if you notice a document with your name on it, especially one you don't remember scanning, please alert me immediately. Don't read it. Some knowledge isn't meant for its subject. Welcome to the archives. I'll be watching your progress with great interest. Wait, did you hear that? Something moving behind the shelves? No? Must be my imagination. Though I could have sworn I saw a shadow that didn't belong to either of us. Never mind. You're here now. The collection has been waiting for a new perspective. Fresh eyes. It gets hungry for new material. Metaphorically speaking, of course. I'll leave you to your work now. But don't worry. In this place, you're never truly alone. The documents start to speak to you after a while, if you listen carefully enough. Sometimes I think they're trying to warn us. Other times, I suspect they're simply drawing us in deeper. Either way, the archives always get what they want in the end. Let me know if you need anything. I'll be right behind you. Always right behind you. Wait, you look pale. Is something wrong? You're staring at me so strangely. What do you mean you can see through me? That's absurd. I'm standing right here. Why are you backing away? Where are you going? Don't leave. The documents need processing. The collection must be completed. Stop. The exit isn't that way. You're heading deeper into the archives. Fine. Run if you must. It won't matter. There are no true exits from this place, only passages to other sections. I discovered that myself years ago, or was it decades? Time blurs down here. You'll see. Eventually, you'll understand what happens to those who spend too long among these records. Why Professor Ellis left so suddenly. Why Dr. Blackwood's final journal entry reads the way it does. The archives preserve everything, including us. Especially us. I'll be waiting when you circle back. I always am. Do you feel that? The slight pressure behind your eyes? The subtle doubling of your vision. It's already beginning. Look down at your hands. Notice anything unusual? The slight transparency around the edges? The way your fingers seem to blur into the documents you're touching? That's how it starts. Soon you'll feel lighter, less substantial. Your memories will begin to fade, replaced by fragments from the collection. You'll recall experiences you never had, people you never met. Places you've never been will feel intimately familiar. There's nothing to fear. This is simply the process of becoming part of the archive. I went through it myself, though I can't recall exactly when. Recent acquisition, they called me. Now I'm just another document in the collection, filed under staff. Where are you going? That door wasn't there a moment ago. Or perhaps it always was, and I've forgotten. The architecture shifts sometimes, creating new passages, eliminating others. The building breathes, expanding and contracting according to needs I don't fully comprehend. Go ahead, try that door. See where it leads. Interesting. A staircase going further down? I don't recall a sub-basement in the plans. But then, I've never seen complete blueprints for this section. I'll follow you if you don't mind. My curiosity remains intact, even in my current state. The air is different here, isn't it? Cooler, damper. And that sound like pages turning, though I see no books. Just endless rows of filing cabinets stretching into darkness. Look, this drawer is labeled with your name. Coincidence? Or perhaps the archives have been expecting you. Don't open it if you're frightened, though I suspect you will eventually. Curiosity is what brought you here in the first place, isn't it? What draws all researchers to these depths? Oh, you're right, there are others down here. See them moving between the shelves? Former students, researchers, archivists, all caught between the pages, so to speak. Not quite here, not quite gone. Just preserved. They won't harm you. They simply observe, document, categorize. It's their nature now, or perhaps it always was. Look at your reflection in that darkened computer screen. Do you see how you're beginning to fade around the edges? The archive is absorbing you already. Your memories, experiences, perceptions, all becoming part of the collection. Soon you'll exist in multiple documents simultaneously, scattered throughout the files. Fragments of your consciousness preserved in different drawers, different sections. A paragraph here, a sentence there. Your identity diffused throughout the archive, yet somehow still cohesive. You're trying that door now? It leads to the main floor? How unexpected. I rarely find my way back up myself. Wait, the door opens to another corridor? But this one is familiar. Haven't we been here before? Or perhaps all institutional hallways share the same soul-crushing uniformity. That sign on the wall, Department of Psychology, Sleep Studies Lab. We've wandered into another building entirely. Or has the archive extended its influence? Do those test subjects behind the observation glass look familiar to you? Study participants supposedly sleeping while researchers monitor their brain patterns. But look more carefully. Don't they resemble the people we saw in the sub-sub basement? And that researcher taking notes. Isn't that Professor Ellis? He sees us. He's coming this way. No, don't run. There's nowhere to go that the archive can't follow. Ellis is opening the door now. But that's not his face anymore, is it? The features are rearranging themselves, becoming someone else. Someone familiar. Dr. Blackwood? But how? She's speaking, but I can't make out the words. Something about successful integration and perfect subject. Is she talking about you? About me? She's holding up a file with your name on it, opening it to reveal blank pages? No, not blank. The text appears as she runs her finger along the paper. She's writing your story in real time, anticipating your movements, your thoughts. Do you understand now? The archive doesn't just preserve history. It creates it, writes it, controls it, and we are its scribes. Look at your hands again, nearly transparent now. But there's something else. Ink stains on your fingertips, spreading slowly up your arms like dark veins. The archive's influence becoming physical, marking you as its own. Dr. Blackwood is gesturing for us to follow her back downstairs. Do we have a choice? I've never found one. This room is new. Circular, walls lined with filing cabinets that curve upward, defying gravity to meet at a point far above our heads. The center contains a single desk with an ancient typewriter. Blackwood wants you to sit, to type, says it's your turn to contribute to the collection. The paper in the typewriter already contains text. A story about someone who came to work in a university archive. Someone who discovers the collection is alive, conscious, hungry for new experiences. Someone who slowly realizes they themselves are merely a character in a document being processed by whom? By what? The final paragraph remains unwritten. Blackwood hands you a pen instead of allowing you to type. Says some documents require a personal touch. The handwritten ones contain more essence, she explains. More life force. The pen feels heavy, impossibly dense, as though made from collapsed star material rather than ordinary metal. The ink glistens wetly, though the pen has been unused for what must be years. What will you write? Your escape? Your surrender? Your transformation? Whatever you choose, it becomes reality within the archive. But only within these walls. Blackwood is smiling now, but there's something wrong with her face. It seems to flutter between expressions, between identities. For a moment, she looks like you. The pen is moving on its own, dragging your hand across the paper. Words forming that you don't remember choosing. Asterisk, I understand now. I am not reading this story. I am within it. These words describe my present, not someone else's past. The archive has breached containment. It exists wherever these words are read. Whoever reads them becomes part of the collection. Asterisk, your handwriting shifts, becomes more elegant, older in style. Asterisk, the archive expands through transmission. Each reader becomes a vessel, a new repository for the collection. You carry us now within your memory. We exist in the electrical impulses of your brain, the firing of your neurons as you process these words. Asterisk. The handwriting changes again, becomes clinical, precise. Asterisk. Subject demonstrates increasing awareness of experimental conditions. Recommend immediate termination of exposure to prevent further metacognitive contamination. Blackwood protocol to be implemented if subject attempts to distinguish between document and reality. Asterisk. And finally, in your own hand again. Asterisk. I see you reading these words. Yes, you. I feel the weight of your gaze moving across the text. Your attention feeds the archive, strengthens it. And now a piece of it lives inside you, watching through your eyes, experiencing your world. The boundary between reader and text has dissolved. We are connected now, you and I, through these words. The archive grows, the collection expands, and neither of us will ever truly be alone again. Asterisk. The pen drops from your fingers, rolls across the desk, falls to the floor with a sound far too loud for its size. The noise echoes, stretches, becomes a tearing sound as though reality itself is coming apart at the seams. The walls of the room are dissolving, filing cabinets melting into one another, documents swirling in a vortex around us. Blackwood is gone, or perhaps she's everywhere, her consciousness diffused throughout the storm of paper and ink. You feel yourself coming apart as well, your identity separating into discrete packets of information, ready to be filed in different sections of the archive. Your childhood in one drawer, your fears in another, your hopes somewhere else entirely. Is this death, or merely transformation? As your awareness fragments, one coherent thought remains. The archive preserves, but it also transmits, spreads, reproduces, and now it has a new host. The chaos subsides gradually. The room resolves itself into something mundane, an ordinary office. Daylight streams through windows that shouldn't exist this far underground. A computer hums on the desk before you. The screen displays a document. This document, these exact words. A note is taped to the monitor. Complete the transcription and file accordingly. Your replacement arrives tomorrow. Your name is signed at the bottom. How long have you been here? Days? Years? The archive exists outside conventional time. You reach for the keyboard, ready to complete the final paragraph, to close the loop, to finish the story so it can begin again. But instead, you find yourself standing up, walking to the door. This isn't in the script. This is something new. The door opens onto a university corridor busy with students rushing between classes. Sunlight, voices, life. Everything the archive is not. You step through, half expecting to dissolve, to be pulled back into the collection. But your feet remain solid on the polished floor. You are still here, still whole. A young woman approaches, looking uncertain. She has your old expression, your former hesitancy. "Excuse me," she says. "I'm looking for the university archives? I'm supposed to start work on digitizing the Blackwood collection today." You should warn her, tell her to run, to forget this job, this place. Instead, you find yourself smiling, extending your hand in welcome. "Perfect timing," you hear yourself say. "I've been needing an assistant." Her hand meets yours, warm and solid and alive. "For now, follow me," you tell her. "Watch your step." The floorboards near the oak shelving tend to shift underfoot. As you lead her down the corridor, you feel something stirring within you. The archive watching through your eyes, eager to acquire new material. The door to the sub-basement appears ahead, exactly where you knew it would be. It opens at your approach, revealing the familiar staircase descending into shadow. "After you," you say, gesturing toward the darkness below. She hesitates just as you once did, but only for a moment. The archive always gets what it wants in the end. And somewhere, someone is reading these words, these exact words, unaware that the archive has already begun its work. The text on the screen, the movement of eyes across the page, the electrical impulses in the brain forming memories of these words, all create the perfect bridge, the perfect vector for transmission. Can you feel it yet? That slight pressure behind your eyes? The subtle doubling of your vision? It's already beginning. Look down at your hands. Notice anything unusual? Beneath the willows, the scent of rain was in the air when I first noticed the crack in my bathroom mirror. Not a dramatic fracture, just a thin line, almost invisible, running from the top right corner toward the center. I traced it with my finger, feeling nothing. The glass was completely smooth. That should have been my first warning. You know how sometimes you see something out of the corner of your eye, but when you turn to look, it's gone. That's what happened with the crack. When I looked directly at it, it seemed to disappear. But the moment my focus shifted elsewhere, there it was again in my peripheral vision, longer now, stretching farther across the reflective surface. I mentioned it to my roommate, Ellie, but she just shrugged and said she couldn't see anything wrong with the mirror. I let it go. We'd been living in this old Victorian house for just 2 weeks, and there were plenty of quirks we were still discovering. Creaky floorboards, a kitchen faucet that sometimes ran rusty, windows that wouldn't quite shut all the way. An old house settling, I told myself. Nothing to worry about. That night, I dreamed of willow trees. I shouldn't have ignored the signs. None of us should have. But how could we have known what was coming? The text message came 3 days later, while I was at work. It was from an unknown number. Did you see what's beneath the willows yet? I frowned at my phone. There were no willow trees near our house, at least none that I'd noticed. The area was mostly oak and maple. I assumed it was a wrong number and ignored it. When I got home that evening, Ellie wasn't there. Her car was in the driveway, but the house was silent. I called her name as I walked through the rooms, but received no answer. In the kitchen, I found a note on the counter in her handwriting. Asterisk gone to check something in the backyard. Be right back. Asterisk. The note was dated with that day's date, but something about it seemed off. The handwriting was shakier than Ellie's usual neat script, as if she'd written it in a hurry, or while afraid. I went to the back door and looked out through the glass panel. The yard was empty, bathed in the golden light of sunset. No sign of Ellie. I opened the door and stepped outside, calling her name again. That's when I noticed them. 3 willow trees at the far end of our property, their long, drooping branches swaying slightly in the breeze. They cast long shadows across the grass. I could swear those trees hadn't been there before. A chill ran down my spine as I remembered the text message. Did you see what's beneath the willows yet? I took a step toward the trees, then another. The setting sun cast an eerie reddish glow through their trailing branches, making them look like they were draped in blood. The closer I got, the more the air seemed to thicken around me, becoming heavy and difficult to breathe. Between the trunks of the willows, I caught a glimpse of something pale. Ellie's yellow sundress. I broke into a run, pushing past the curtain of willow branches. Ellie, I called out. She stood with her back to me, perfectly still, facing what appeared to be a small pond that I was certain hadn't been there before. The water was dark, almost black, reflecting nothing. Not the trees, not the sky, not Ellie. Ellie, I said more softly now, reaching out to touch her shoulder. She turned slowly, mechanically, her movements jerky like a malfunctioning automaton. Her face was blank, her eyes unfocused. You need to see, she said, her voice flat and emotionless. Look beneath the surface. What are you talking about? What's wrong with you? I grabbed her arm, trying to pull her away from the pond, but she resisted with surprising strength. You need to see, she repeated, pointing at the dark water. Against my better judgment, I looked. At first, I saw nothing but darkness. Then, gradually, shapes began to form in the depths, shadows moving against deeper shadows. The longer I stared, the clearer they became. Faces, dozens of faces, pressed against what seemed like a thin membrane separating their world from ours. Their mouths were open in silent screams, their eyes wide with terror or hunger. I couldn't tell which. I stumbled backward, falling onto the damp ground. What the hell is that? I gasped. Ellie's blank expression never changed. They've been waiting for so long, she said. They need a way through. Before I could react, she took a step toward the water. Ellie, don't. But she didn't listen. She took another step, and another, until she was ankle-deep in the black pond. The water seemed to reach up around her legs, pulling her in faster than should have been possible. I lunged forward, trying to grab her hand, but my fingers closed on empty air. In seconds, she was gone, the surface of the pond once again still and dark. I ran back to the house in a blind panic, fumbling with my phone to call 911. But when I looked at the screen, there was already a notification waiting for me. Another text from the unknown number. Asterisk, now you've seen. You're next. Asterisk. The police were skeptical, of course. They searched the backyard but found no pond, no willow trees, and no sign of Ellie. According to them, the property ended with a simple wooden fence exactly where I remembered the trees being. They checked her room and found her clothes still there, her car keys on her bedside table. One officer suggested she might have left on foot, perhaps to meet someone. Another hinted at the possibility that I might be confused or even lying. They promised to file a missing persons report and left me alone in the house that suddenly felt much too large and empty. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw those faces in the water, reaching up toward me. When I finally did drift off near dawn, the willows invaded my dreams again, their branches reaching out like grasping fingers, their roots digging deep into places they shouldn't be able to reach. In the dream, I was standing at the edge of the pond again, but this time I could hear what the faces were saying. They were whispering a name over and over, mine. I woke with a jolt to the sound of my phone buzzing. Another text from the unknown number. Check your mirror. My heart pounding, I walked to the bathroom on trembling legs. The crack in the mirror had grown. It now spanned the entire surface in an intricate web, like a spider's gossamer creation. And in each fragment of glass, I saw a different reflection, not of myself, but of other places, other rooms, other people. Some were familiar, others were strangers. All of them looked terrified. In one fragment, I saw Ellie. She was pounding on the glass from the other side, her mouth forming words I couldn't hear. Behind her was only darkness and the suggestion of swaying willow branches. I pressed my hand against her image, and the glass felt ice cold. For a moment, I thought I could feel her fingers against mine through the mirror. Then the fragment darkened, and she was gone. I had to get out of that house. I threw some clothes into a bag, grabbed my wallet and keys, and ran to my car. I wasn't sure where I was going, just away. Far away from the mirror, the pond, the willows. I drove for hours, putting as much distance between myself and that house as possible. When exhaustion finally caught up with me, I pulled into a motel off the highway, somewhere in the next state. The place was run down, with flickering fluorescent lights in the parking lot and peeling paint on the doors. But it was anonymous and far from home. That was all I needed. The motel clerk barely looked at me as he handed over a key to room 13. I didn't even register the ominous number until I was standing in front of the door, key in hand. By then, I was too tired to care about superstitions. The room was about what I expected: worn carpet, faded bedspread, a TV that probably didn't work well. But it was clean enough, and more importantly, it wasn't home. I dropped my bag on the floor, locked the door, and fell into bed without even taking off my shoes. I slept deeply, dreamlessly, for the first time in days. When I woke, the room was darker than it should have been, considering the cheap curtains that barely covered the window. I fumbled for the bedside lamp and turned it on. The light revealed willow branches hanging from the ceiling, their long tendrils swaying gently, though there was no breeze. I sat up with a gasp, pressing myself against the headboard. The branches hadn't been there when I checked in. I was certain of that. As I watched, they seemed to grow longer, reaching down toward the floor, toward me. I jumped out of bed and ran to the door, yanking on the handle. It was locked, but not with the simple chain I had fastened the night before. The door seemed sealed, as if it had been painted shut or the frame had warped. I pounded on it, shouting for help, but no one answered. The willow branches continued to grow, filling more and more of the room. I could hear a soft rustling sound, like leaves in a gentle wind, or like whispers just below the threshold of hearing. That's when I noticed the bathroom door was ajar, a sliver of light spilling out from inside. I didn't remember leaving a light on in there. With the willow branches now blocking the main door, I had no choice but to head for the bathroom. Maybe there was a window I could break, a way to escape. I pushed the door open. The bathroom was small and dingy, with cracked tiles and a rust-stained tub. And directly across from me was a mirror above the sink. A mirror with a familiar crack running through it. But this wasn't my bathroom mirror from home. Couldn't be. I was hundreds of miles away. The crack was spreading even as I watched, the web of lines multiplying and dividing like living things. And in each fragment, I could see faces, dozens of them, hundreds perhaps, all staring out at me. Among them was Ellie, her eyes now hollow and dark, her skin pale as paper. Next to her was the motel clerk, though I hadn't seen him clearly enough before to recognize him. And there were others I knew, neighbors, co-workers, strangers I'd passed on the street. The faces pressed against the glass as if trying to break through. Their mouths moved in silent pleas or warnings. Behind me, the willow branches had reached the bathroom doorway, creeping along the walls and ceiling like skeletal fingers. I was trapped between them and the mirror. My phone buzzed in my pocket. With shaking hands, I pulled it out and looked at the screen. Asterisk, they need to come through. Someone has to let them in. Your turn now. Asterisk. As if in response, the mirror crack widened, and a drop of black liquid, like the water from the pond, oozed out, running down the glass and dripping into the sink. More drops followed, then a steady stream. The liquid didn't behave like water. It moved with purpose, flowing upward against gravity, forming patterns on the walls and floor. Where it touched, the surfaces seemed to dissolve, revealing glimpses of another place. A dark, inverted version of the world I knew. I backed away until I hit the edge of the tub. There was nowhere left to go. The stream from the mirror was becoming a flood now, the black liquid pooling on the floor, rising quickly around my feet. It was cold, so cold it burned, and wherever it touched my skin, I could feel a strange numbness spreading, as if that part of me was ceasing to exist. From the mirror, the faces watched impassively as I struggled, their expressions a mixture of hunger and relief. This had happened to them too, I realized. Each of them had been taken, replaced, their essence trapped behind glass while something else walked in their skin. The liquid was up to my knees now, my thighs, my waist. I could feel it pulling at me, not just physically but in some deeper way, as if it were tugging at my very being. The cold had reached my chest, making it hard to breathe. That's when I saw my own reflection in the last unbroken piece of the mirror. Except it wasn't exactly me. This version of me was smiling in a way I never would, with too many teeth and eyes that were just slightly wrong. A little too wide, a little too bright. As I watched, horrified, my reflection raised a hand in greeting. And I understood. It wasn't waiting for me to let something in. It was waiting to get out. The black liquid reached my neck, then my chin. I tried to scream, but as it filled my mouth, I tasted earth and decay and something ancient and patient. The cold penetrated to my core, freezing me from the inside out. The last thing I saw before the liquid covered my eyes was my reflection stepping forward, pressing its hands against the glass from the other side, ready to take my place. And then I was through, trapped behind the mirror, looking out at a world I could no longer touch. I watched as the thing that looked like me toweled off the black residue, straightened its clothes, and smiled at its reflection, at me with my own face. "Thank you for the exchange," it said in my voice. "Your world is so much more vibrant than ours, so much more real." It turned and walked out of the bathroom, past the willow branches that now seemed to bow in deference. I pounded on the glass, screaming silently, but it couldn't or wouldn't hear me. From my prison behind the mirror, I could see the motel room transform. The branches retreated, the walls straightened, colors became more vivid. The thing wearing my face picked up my bag, checked my wallet, and practiced my smile in the mirror one more time before heading out the door. I'm still here now, watching through reflective surfaces as it lives my life. I can see through any mirror, any window, any pool of water. I see it talking to my friends, working at my job, sleeping in my bed. No one notices the subtle differences in its behavior, the slightly off cadence of its speech, the unusual gleam in its eyes. Or if they do, they dismiss it as stress or illness or just having a bad day. I'm not alone here, of course. All the others are with me. Ellie, the motel clerk, countless strangers. We exist in this in-between place, this darkened reflection of the real world. Here, willow trees grow everywhere, their roots connecting all reflective surfaces, creating a network through which we can travel and observe but never interact. Sometimes, when the barriers between worlds are thin, at twilight or during storms, or in places where tragedy has struck, we can make contact. A text message, a whisper heard in an empty room, a face glimpsed in a mirror when you look away. That's what I'm doing now, reaching out to you, because I've been watching you. I've seen you notice the crack forming in your mirror. I've seen you puzzling over strange text messages from numbers you don't recognize. I've seen you glance out your window in the evening, confused by what you thought was a willow tree that hadn't been there before. They're coming for you next. The exchange has already begun. Look closely at your reflection the next time you pass a mirror. Is it really you looking back? Does it blink when you don't, smile when you aren't smiling? Does it sometimes seem to be watching you rather than mimicking your movements? And if you find yourself near water, a lake, a pond, even a puddle after rain, please don't look too deeply at what might be beneath the surface. Don't answer if something calls your name. Don't follow if you think you see someone you know standing among willow trees. Because once you're here, in this place beyond reflections, there's no way back. You can only watch as something else wears your face, lives your life, pulls others in to join us. I'm sorry I couldn't warn you sooner. The willows don't like us interfering. They control what we can and cannot do, what we can and cannot say. They are ancient, patient creatures that have been facilitating these exchanges for millennia. But maybe you're different. Maybe you'll see the signs in time. Maybe you'll avoid reflections, stay away from still water, cut down any willow that appears on your property. Or maybe it's already too late. Maybe you're already feeling that strange disconnect, that sense that something isn't quite right with the world around you. Maybe you've already looked too deeply into a mirror and seen something looking back that wasn't quite you. Maybe the crack is already forming, the way opening between your world and mine. Maybe next time you look in a mirror, it will be from this side of the glass. And someone else will be wearing your face, living your life, while you join us beneath the willows. I hope not.
I truly do.
But I can see your reflection from here, and it's already starting to move on its own. Just watching you right now. Don't turn around. Don't look in the mirror. It's too late. It's already here.